Hello, everyone. Do apologize. I updated the Evernote account with the link for Nick about 10, 15 minutes ago. But there's some issues with syncing, apparently.
Syncing. It's syncing. Hi.
Okay, we're on the air.
Jeff, smile. You look a bit stressed, mate. Have a beer. Oh, no, it's a bit early for you. Yeah. Oh, I take it all back.
I'm going to have to... never mind.
You sound like you've been a bit rushed.
I'm always rushed trying to get all this stuff ready for the show. Anyway, yeah, I had that link in there probably 15 minutes ago, and I don't know what's going on with Evernote, but it's getting confused.
No, that intro page has been messed about. Well, I messed about with it, of course, as a traditional, but no, it's been actually been screwed around in its format all day.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Anyway, here now.
Yeah, we're here, and it's just going to be Nick and I today for the show. I haven't heard anything from Dana. I guess he's still out there riding somewhere.
Yep, if he hasn't fallen off.
Yeah, that's a possibility. Hopefully not.
Yeah, and, I do. I mean, I don't really want him to fall off, but with his current run of luck.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. I have the mixer recording, and I have my Zoom backup recording, because I don't want to make that mistake again, because it took me a lot of work to get.
Oh, I didn't envy you that. No.
Well, it's just that the YouTube recording quality is horrible. Absolutely.
Yeah. It came out all right, though. I mean, you managed to tweak it.
I had to do a lot. I had to really work hard to make it sound like that, and it still sounded like crap.
I'm wondering if I might improve my camera angle a little. Why don't I bring it around there?
A little bit. Oh, that's really dark.
A bit more. Oh, that's very cool, Jeff. That looks very, very noir.
APG after dark.
Noir. Exactly right. Reminds me of Queen and what is it? Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. It's still, I don't like the, it's like the highlights on here are just like blown out.
Yeah, you need a little bit of makeup work.
No, it's just not exposing properly.
But yeah, it'll probably do for, I don't know. Tweak. Trouble is, I don't get to see this until we go live.
I think I know what's going on. Webcam settings.
How's that? That look all right? Yeah, I think so.
I think one of the problems is I have webcam settings and eyeglasses going at the same time.
They're fighting with each other. Me, I'm in charge. Right, I shall eyeglass it. Let's have a look. Oh, that's the problem. I haven't got eyeglass running.
Exposure.
How's my audio, by the way?
Good.
Excellent.
Very, very good. Very good. Oh, there we go. How do I restore this to the default? Okay. So now, if I quit this, what happens? Okay, now if I look at eyeglasses, okay, looks much better, I think. Don't you think? Is the exposure a lot better?
Let me flick onto you. I'm just gazing at my vis. Oh yeah, that looks brilliant. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Oh, very good.
You look as handsome as always.
Oh yeah. Well, thanks. As you do.
Oh, yes. Mutual appreciation society is now brought to order.
Nobody else to contradict or counteract any of our compliments.
Absolutely.
Not that anybody would.
No, they're all way too polite.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one. Like all of a sudden, eyeglasses stopped adjusting things. Why is that? It's doing that bit. Okay, that's all right.
Smoked gammon steaks. What's a gammon steak?
That's a slice of ham.
Oh, okay.
About a quarter of an inch thick. Usually large.
Oh, hence the pineapple, mango, and chili sauce. Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, pineapple's a common thing we have in the UK on gammon, on account of the fact it tenderizes it, the juices in pineapple.
Yes.
I think an invention of the Hawaiian people, if I'm not mistaken, who chuck in pineapples with a pig carcass and cook it in a pit under leaves.
I've had that. It's very delicious.
Oh, have you? I wish I could.
I'll just head over to Hawaii. Get you some.
Oh, I've gone a bit dark there. Let me. No, there we go. Right.
Well, thank you, Barbara. Very nice of you. Nice little compliment. Let's see. Let me hear this.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger.
Okay. There we go. And so it's just going to be Nick and I today. And in a way, it's a bad thing because everybody has a different personality, and I'm sure that everybody has their favorite and all that kind of stuff. But the good news is that with just two of us here, we might be able to actually knock out more feedback.
You bet.
I'm hoping. Yeah. So,
well, I feel like being short and sweet tonight.
Short and sweet. Okay, good. All right. Does that deserve a...
That's what she said.
Yes, it does.
All right.
Okay. I suppose we could get started unless there's some other thing that we need to talk about before we hit the record button.
I can't think of anything. I'm just... anything good? I'm just messing. Don't worry about me.
No, that's right. That looks good. Yeah, it's a better angle, so we can kind of see you. Before it was kind of like, to the side.
Oh, don't look at me. That's better.
You're such a good-looking man.
You're the first person in like 61 years who's ever said that.
That's not true. People have said it a lot in the chat room.
Oh, well, but you know the sort of people we get in the chat room.
Yeah, that's true. That's it. Alienate the loyal fans in the chat room, Nick.
Exactly right. Yeah, I'm doing a good job today. Now, why has eyeglasses disappeared from my little thing up there?
I don't know. Is it still in your menu up in the top?
No, it keeps every time it comes with "Welcome to eyeglasses."
Yeah,
and I click OK, and it promptly disappears again. I don't understand that.
I don't know.
It's really not behaving. Yep.
So in the gear in the Hangout window, you know how you hover, the settings in the Hangout window. Have you chosen eyeglasses as the video source?
Good question. Good question.
I will try that. Might be the issue.
No, I haven't. I've chosen the correct. No, there we go. You're such a clever man.
Well, that's because that's happened to me before, and that's how I resolved it.
There we go. A little bit of that. Oh yes, no. There we go. Too much. I soften myself up or contrast myself from there in the middle there. How's your gamma rays? Ooh, God. Don't want too much of that. No, I think a little darker. There we go. That looks nice. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Sound good, look good, feel good.
Yes, certainly do. Looking forward to my birthday on my new microphone.
Oh yeah. And I just placed an order for the upgrade to this particular mixer, which I'm excited about. Although it's going to be, I've been trying to wrap my head around exactly how it's going to work, but it's going to allow me to record in separate tracks, and so I can adjust music and your signal and my own microphone signal all separately. So
great. I mean, does Hangout give you all the separate signals?
No, Hangout is just one signal, and that's basically you guys. So that'll be
Right.
one track. Everything that's coming in from the Hangout from you all will go on one
Okay.
track. My microphone will be a separate track, and then the all these musical things are going to be a separate track as well.
All right. Sounds
So,
amazing.
yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah, so I was looking on Amazon, and I had like points for using this one card, and I hadn't used this card in a while because it's the card that Christopher uses, and it expired or something like that. They had to reissue it, and I never got the new information, so I haven't been able to use that card. So I finally updated the information in Amazon and said, you have like $400 and something worth of points.
Hey.
Oh, I know how to use that.
Yeah, I'll buy the wife a nice new washing machine.
No, that's not how I used it. How about that
Fair enough.
XR18? Let's see. Dana says, sorry, I'm exploring New Mexico today. Why is he
nice
sorry he's
picture.
exploring New Mexico?
I think it was supposed to be a comma there.
Why are you sorry? Is New Mexico ugly?
Doesn't look very ugly. It looks very pretty.
Okay. I'm going to ignore this and get over here and start the show. It's going to be a really, really good show. Okay. Let's see. We're starting at 12:44. Call it 12:45. Airline Pilot Guy, episode 283.
Flight 209, are you clear for takeoff? Roger.
Hello, you're listening to the Airline Pilot Guy Show, the view from our side of the cockpit door. I'm Captain Jeff, your host, broadcasting live from Studio 938 in the Chicago Hilton Hotel in downtown Chicago, Illinois. In today's episode, a close call between an airliner and missile test in North Korea. A flight encounters hail. A teenager opens a door and slides to the tarmac while the aircraft is taxiing in. More news, your feedback, and a new Plain Tales segment, the number 9 combustor. So get all settled in. Tray tables and seat backs in their upright and locked positions. Electronic devices powered on. Flight 283 is ready for pushback. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, the Airline Pilot Guy Show. I am an airline pilot and a guy. That's Airline Pilot Guy. And I work for a major U.S. legacy carrier here in the States. And joining me today from across the pond, we have
1,000.
an Airbus wide-body captain for a major European carrier,
500.
professional photographer, ex-fighter pilot in the Royal Air Force and Royal Australian Air Force, Captain Nick Anderson.
Hi there, Jeff. And again, a pleasure to join you. Just us then, the two old captains. And what a fascinating show this is going to be.
I'm sure it's going to be fascinating. What are we doing?
Yeah, we're gonna miss Steph and Dana. I mean, Steph's out having fun. Dana's on his motorcycle. We're the only guys who are old and boring enough to be sitting in one of our microphones.
Yeah. We're not out there exploring the southwestern United States on a big Harley Davidson motorcycle, nor are we jet setting down to the lovely Central American country of Costa Rica. Oh well. We're going to have fun anyway, though, aren't we? Oops.
Well, I'm just going to drink a lot.
Yeah. I need a pina colada, and that way I'll feel like I'm, heading down. I don't know. Do they drink pina coladas in Costa Rica? Probably not. Anyway, some kind of a rum drink, I'm sure. So now we're going to hear from Steph in, very soon, because she sent us a little bit of audio feedback regarding a meetup in Berlin coming up in September. So how have you been?
I'm pretty good, thank you, Jeff. Not much has happened since last week. I haven't done any trips. I'm on my oh, excuse me. I'm on my part-time days off. So yeah, I've just been playing a few games of bowls. Catching up on a bit of sleep, walking the dogs, and nah, that's about it, really.
Okay. That sounds like enough to me. And it just seems like we just recorded the last episode just a few days ago.
Oh, what it was?
It was just a few days ago. Well, actually,
Okay.
what day is today? Is today it's Wednesday. It's further along in the week than I thought. It was last Thursday night, I believe, that we recorded episode 2. It's just time just flies, doesn't it?
Well, you've been very busy, haven't you? You've been
Yeah.
whizzing around the wonderful country of America, north and down as far as Mexico. Was that right?
I did. So we recorded Thursday night, and on Friday I started doing some of the editing for the show, and or was it Friday that we did the show? I don't know.
I could check and see. Let me see. APG.
Because it seems like I
on
ran out of
Thursday. No, it was Thursday.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
it was like a long time ago.
yeah, I know. Maybe it was Friday. I was doing. I had the big plumbing project or something, or maybe I don't know. I'm all confused now. But anyway, whatever. I picked up a trip on Saturday and Sunday to ferry a maintenance ferry down to Querétaro or something like that. I'm not very good at pronouncing that, but it's a city to the northwest of Mexico City, and that was it turned out to be a little fiasco because when we took a very early flight Saturday morning, 6:30 departure, flew down there, had to make our way around some pretty nasty weather in the southern United States, but we finally cleared that and made our way down to QRO, and we got in and we headed over to the Aeromexico ticket counter and said, okay, we're here. We're ready now to fly on Aeromexico, your next flight leaving in an hour to Monterrey. And they said they were doing some typing on the computer and they were looking at the screen, looking at us and looking at the screen. They go, we don't see you in here. And we said, excuse me? So we called our company. And then this is one of those things that, you deal with all the time because you fly internationally, but I don't, we don't have, I don't have international plan on my phone. So luckily my co-pilot did. He had T-Mobile and he said, no problem. I'll call the Acme crew tracking people and see what's going on. And so after a lot of hemming and hawing, is that right? Hemming and hawing? They said, yeah, looks like the person that was responsible for getting you guys tickets, they didn't. And okay, what are we going to do now? And they said, well, let us work on it. So we sat in the airport terminal for, I don't know, a couple hours while they tried to figure out what they were going to do with us. And then finally they said, okay, here's the plan. We've called transportation. They're going to come and get you. You're going to go to the hotel in QRO. It's a Crown Plaza, about a half an hour drive from the hotel. From the airport. And then tomorrow morning, you're going to take the 6 o'clock flight or 6:30 flight to Mexico City. And then you're going to deadhead on an Acme 737 from Mexico City to Atlanta. So that's what we did. Worked out well. Although my first officer, he deviated from the deadhead because he actually lives in Los Angeles, another new hire. But anyway, so it turned out to be a relatively decent trip, but that was my adventure over the weekend.
Well, I must admit, you did say that your connection down there onto Aeromexico was going to be tight. I didn't realize it was going to be so tight you weren't going to get on the airplane.
Yeah, well, if somebody had bought a ticket for us,
you probably would have been fine. Yeah, I always find with ours, it's the one-off trips, usually without passengers, where you're positioning an aircraft or picking up an airplane that's been broken. They are the most dreadfully organized trips because no one really gives them very much priority.
No priority at all. No passengers. Who cares?
No, exactly right. So they're always the worst. Yeah, they gave us a captain's phone a little, it's quite a few years ago now. It's like a relic of the 1970s. But if I do need to, I can turn it on and use it in any country, and the company picks up the tab. So that's always been rather handy. The only problem I find is that whenever I turn it on, because I only use it like twice a year, the battery is flat.
I was gonna say it's like 70s vintage is like it has a dial on it. And you have to pick it
Yeah,
up.
just about. Yeah. Well, actually, it fits in your shoe. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, shoe phone.
Yeah, Get Smart. Yeah, shoe phone.
Nice.
Let's
I'd
go
like to have
back a
shoe
bit.
phone. Okay. Well, yeah. I don't know if our guys have that kind of thing or not, but I don't know. Doesn't matter. Anyway, got through customs and immigration in Mexico rather quickly because it was just two of us, and we were in between passenger flights, so that worked out well. And then coming back into Atlanta, I used an app that I'd heard from Johnny Jett on one of the shows I like to listen to on the tech network, This Week in Technology Network, and it's called and it worked out well. I don't have global, what is it called, Global Traveler or whatever. I don't have all that fancy stuff, but I did have this app called Mobile Pass. It's a mobile passport app, and it allows you to kind of fill out all the information that you need to present when you're coming back into the country, and worked like a charm. So I whizzed right through a special line and used this machine and held up the barcode on it and got right back in. So it wasn't that big of a deal at all.
Is that just for Americans going home, or could I use it?
I think it's just U.S. I think it's just U.S. Citizens. Okay. Sorry, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that I don't know. Anyway, so that was it, and then back out on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. I got the show out on Monday, the last show, and then left yesterday morning. This is a great trip. One leg yesterday from Atlanta to Raleigh-Durham, and then a nice long layover. Got to do a lot of prep work for the today's show while I was there in Raleigh-Durham. And the reason why I did that was I was going to rent a car and I was going to drive over and see my daughter who was in Elon University, except that I found out a couple days before I left on this trip that she was actually driving home the day that I was going to visit her.
Wow, good timing.
She's at home right now, and I'm not. Oh well. Hopefully she'll still be there by the time I get back from this trip. Today was nice and easy. Early start, 4:30 pickup at the hotel, but we just flew from Raleigh-Durham to Detroit, and then Detroit to here, Chicago. And so I got in a couple hours ago, and nice long layover again here. And then again, just two legs tomorrow, end up in Baltimore. By the way, Hillel said, "Hey, what are you going to do in Baltimore tomorrow?" And I said, "I don't know. Probably do some editing on this show, a little bit anyway. And otherwise, maybe we'll get together and First Officer Craig, if you're listening, maybe if you're available, we can get together sometime tomorrow later in the afternoon, have a beer or two, and anybody else in the area, if you're listening live right now, check it out. See if we're going to be doing a meetup or not. I think we are. So, and that's it. All caught up.
Talking of meetups, I'm desperately going to hear. Here we go. I was getting in touch with a few guys from San Francisco because on the 12th, I'll be in San Francisco, and by the looks of it, Fred will be there, and I'm looking here, trying to read all this. Brian might be there. And a few other guys. I can't actually find the thread now, which is absolutely classic.
I think Jim Mercado, our designer, of the Acme logo, I think he's going to try to make it.
Boeing bound Bry. Well, a West Coast meetup. That's wonderful. It's my father's birthday, so I might be able to make it. Well, with a name like that, that's fine. It's Airbus bound Bry I want to meet. No, there's going to be a few of us there, but anyway, yeah. So I haven't picked a location yet. So if anyone who wants to come, wants to get join that thread on Slack and suggest a location somewhere near the Hilton Financial District Hotel, or somewhere, we got all day, but I was planning on a sort of evening meeting since it's a work day and most people will be probably working. Okay. I think the 12th's a work day, isn't it?
12th, so that's like 10 days from today. Right? Today's the 2nd.
Yeah. Oh, it's actually going to be a Saturday. Oh, well, it's
Well, that should be a good time for
suggestion for somewhere in the afternoon. Then we could, like go to somewhere like an airport. If there's a decent restaurant there, I could see if someone would give me a lift. Anyway, if anyone's got any good ideas, please get on a Slack and let me know.
Well, check it out. If you're not already on Slack, you need to do so. And I'm sure that that's where the discussion will be taking place and details about the meetup. So if you're in the Northern California area, make sure that you meet up with Captain Nick.
Yep. If you're not on Slack, don't worry. As soon as we get the details finalized, I'll let you know on either Twitter or Facebook or both.
Excellent. Okay. Well, as long as we're talking about meetups, got this from, let's see here, Richard. He says, Jeff, I've been watching your schedule on and off. Realized you're coming to Little Rock next month. He sent this to me in July. I live in Little Rock and would love to meet up if possible, go out for a beer, barbecue, something like that. Let's see. Also, I see you're getting in early in the day. If you're available and up for it, we can possibly go down to a town called Pine Bluff, which is where my grandfather has a World War II North American AT-6, if you'd be interested in checking that out. Either way, would love to meet up, and even if it's just for dinner or lunch or something. So not sure exactly what we're going to be doing that week as far as recording and that kind of thing, but definitely plan on meeting up at least for a lunch or a dinner or something like that. So we'll have to play that by ear. But again, that's Little Rock, and I should probably check my schedule so that I have, or you have, some idea of when I'm going to be there in Little Rock. And it looks like it's going to be the 7th, which is Monday next week. So hopefully, this show should be published by then. And if you're listening to this right now and that date has not elapsed and you're in, wait a minute, no, that's not right. It's the 8th, Tuesday. The first day I'm in Norfolk, Virginia. The second day I'm in Little Rock on the 8th of July, Tuesday. So that'd be fun to meet you if you're in the area. Okay, and let's see. The other thing I was going to do is play some audio from Dr. Steph regarding a meetup in Berlin.
Hello, APGers. It's Dr. Steph. I hope you're all enjoying the show today, and I'm sorry I can't be there with you all. As we speak, it's a couple hours before the show's actually supposed to start, and I am here at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport.
Okay, I'm going to start it over again. This will help me in my editing.
Hello, APGers. It's Dr. Steph. I hope you're all enjoying the show today, and I'm sorry I can't be there with you all. As we speak, it's a couple hours before the show's actually supposed to start, and I am here at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport waiting for my flight. I'm going on vacation for the next couple of days through the weekend, and very excited to have some time off of work and just to relax and do nothing for a little while. Anyway, I wanted to let you all know about a meetup that we are in the process of planning, and this is specifically for, or mainly for those of you in Europe and specifically near Germany. Many of you know I'm running the Berlin Marathon on September 24th, and I've been talking with a few of the APGers over in that part of the world, and we're planning on a meetup, which we're going to have on September 22nd at about 7 p.m., and this is going to take place. Tillman, our APG listener over there in Berlin, has graciously offered his Circus Hotel Brewery or Circus Microbrewery for us to use as a venue for this. And again, that'll be September 22nd, 7 p.m. at the Circus Hotel Brewery in Berlin. We'll have more details about this coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I'm looking forward to seeing any of you who can make it to that meetup. And again, hope you're enjoying the show today. Sorry I can't be there again. I look forward to seeing all of you next week. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like she's like beating up a child or something. Steph, come on. I know you're stressed out, but gosh, leave the children alone.
She says, have a holiday, relax, and not do anything. And then she promptly says she'd go to Berlin for a marathon.
Yeah.
That's our Steph.
That's nothing. You know,
exactly.
and then the next week I think she's in Tokyo, and then the next week she's in Chicago running another marathon.
Unbelievable.
Crazy.
But I am so jealous of Steph to get to go to Tillman's Hotel and
Me too.
taste that beer, because we all got that wonderful gift of a pint glass from Stein, I should say, from Tillman, which have our names engraved on it and says it is a glass that it's a magic glass. It will never empty. So I think he means if we ever pitch up at his hotel with our glass being our sticky mitts, he will top it up and keep it topped up all night, which sounds fabulous.
It does. And Steph said she was sure to pack her Stein. And these are like heavy Steins. I said, you know what? You could probably just use one of the ones he has there at his brewery. And she said, yeah, but it's not an endless supply of beer. Only if I have the one.
It's not the magic one.
Yeah. So I look forward. I am jealous too. I look forward to having my crystal Stein and engraved Stein with me, and then enjoying that great beer at Tillman's place.
Well, I'm very kind of upset because we've already booked a holiday in Italy, and the 22nd is the day after we arrive. And I think if I took my wife to Italy and then the very next day jumped on a flight to Berlin, divorce papers might be waiting for me in my empty room when I returned.
That would not go over well.
No, it would not go over well. So I'm going to miss the chance to go down to Berlin. And once more, Steph is coming through London on her way home, and I'm going to miss the chance to see her there as well, because I'll be soaking up the rays on an Italian beach somewhere.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Sad.
That's just the way life is, I guess.
I know. Bad organization. That's the story of my life.
You need a secretary. I do too. Need somebody to organize my life. Anyway, anything else before we move on to the coffee fund?
I don't think so.
Let's do it.
Johnny, how much more coffee?
No thanks.
I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup, a cup.
All right, Coffee Fund is your way to support the show financially. And a lot of you support the show by sending in feedback and just being there, downloading the show and everything else. But if you have the financial resources to do so, and you don't need to spend the money on essentials in your life, like the roof over your head, clothes on your body, food in your tummy, or even flying lessons, that is very, very important. So if you're not spending your money on that kind of stuff, and you have some left over and you want to support the show, please, we're not going to stop you from heading over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee, where you can support us and become part of the Coffee Fund cadre. We have a couple different ways to do that. One is the PayPal, and we call it the Coffee Fund Classic method. Since the last show, and it was just a few days ago, so no problem. No contributions via that. And we did have the other way of supporting the show is via Patreon. You can become a patron of the show. And Radio Roger became a patron a while back, not too long ago. And he's already doubled his per episode pledge. So thank you very much, Roger, for that. No new patrons this week, but that's okay. As I said, it was a short week. If you want to become part of the group of supporters, please head over to airlinepilotguy.com/coffee. You'll be glad you did. And we will too. And a wrong one. Nope, I think that was the wrong lyric. Percolator. I love coffee, I love tea, I love the Java Jive and it loves me. Coffee and tea and the Java and me. A cup, a cup, a cup, a cup. Boy. Yeah.
Stand by for news.
All right, let's start off with the EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association AirVenture 2017. Last week we talked quite a bit about it on the show. I had a chance to actually go in the middle of of my trip last week on Wednesday, actually a week from a week ago today, and got to meet up with some fine APG people. And let's see, I saw this in some news article. It says the EAA AirVenture 2017 breaks records. The scope of the show is breathtaking. This year's included the U.S. Navy's Blue Angels, the world's only two B-29 Super Fortress bombers, the awesome B-1B bomber, and flocks of immaculately restored warbirds from World War II and since, through to the very latest with the U.S. Air Force showing off two F-35 Lightning II fighters. And it goes on talking about the show and all the great airplanes and demonstrations, etc. And then finally, EAA AirVenture 2017 broke all records, according to Jack Pelton, the CEO and president of the Experimental Aircraft Association, with crowds over 600,000.
And most of those were APG listeners.
Yeah, most of them. Yeah, I'd say probably at least 500,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, not really. But they're potential APG community members, I'd say.
Yeah.
More than 15,500 aircraft movements were recorded through Saturday, July 29th, making Oshkosh's Whitman Field the busiest airport in the world for the week. So that was, as I said, I had a great time. I wish that I could have spent more time there, but alas, my schedule did not allow for it. But we did have a bunch of folks there representing the APG community. And in fact, the very next day, on Thursday, there was an APG meetup at the Brown Arch. And I'd like to send a big, big thank you to Mike Carrolls, Dispatcher Mike, the host of the Flying and Life podcast. That man is a podcasting monster. He is just all over the place with his microphone and interviewing people and everything else. And he was able to record some audio at the APG meetup at the Brown Arch on Thursday last week. So let's take a listen.
All right, so this is Dispatcher Mike here in Oshkosh. We are just outside of the Golden Arch for an APG meetup, and we have 3, 6, 9, 12, public math, 15, 18, 19 of us. Almost 20 APGers are here at the Brown Arch. So I am going to go through around and get everyone's name. If you want to say anything, I will go ahead and make sure we get this to the crew. So let's start here.
I'm David Allen with Other People's Airplanes up here from Florida with my girlfriend Beth. We're camping in Bacon and shooting a lot of video and putting stories out on our YouTube channel at Fly OPA.
Does he know? Do the other people that own the other airplanes, do they know that he's flying other people's airplanes? I'm just wondering.
Why is it called Camp Bacon?
I didn't name it, but it sounds like a great place to be. And it actually, there's a long story, but I'm not going to get into it. It's the place to camp at Scholler.
Okay, sounds good. All right, moving on.
Hi, I'm Glenn Otto from Spring Grove, Illinois. We're camping up here. We drove up here yesterday. We'll be here through Sunday.
Beautiful.
Hello, I'm Matt Donnermeyer from Cincinnati. Drove up, have to drive back. That's a sad situation. And we're standing under a green tree. So there's some keywords for you.
Great. Beautiful. Mr. Evan Shue.
Hey, I'm Evan from Australia. I've come a long way to be here. And it's longer than you. Yeah. I drove all the way from Denver with my boss to be here actually in Oshkosh. And it's been amazing, mind-blowing. There's nothing like this to this scale in Australia. So it's just amazing to be here and to meet everyone.
Beautiful.
Hey, it's Steve Nicholson, a.k.a. Louisiana Steve, here from Lafayette, Louisiana. Great to be with the community.
It's Steve Fisher here from Plane Crazy Down Under, Melbourne, Australia. Formerly of the Australia desk on the Airplane Geeks, and back in Oshkosh for the second time, and this year representing the Sydney Air Show. So come and visit us in Sydney.
We need to talk later. It's very nice to meet you. I'm glad you're feeling better and you're vertical today.
Yeah, I spent most of this week in bed, but I'm glad to be upright today.
Beautiful.
I'm Jerry Baumgartner, Romeoville, Illinois, longtime listener in the presence of giants here. Good to be here camping out in Camp Scholler.
Jerry, do you fly?
I do. I'm a member of the Civil Air Patrol, do a lot of work with them, and that's about the extent of my flying. I do a lot.
Mustangs. Gosh. Are you based at a very great airport called the Lewis University Airport?
I am very near the Lewis University Airport. I live right down the street from them.
Okay, gotcha.
Hi, Sue Folkringer, aka Comanche Sue. I flew up here in a Piper Comanche. This is my 9th year coming to Oshkosh. Just want to thank Jeff and the crew for the podcast. Just love it. And the community.
Yeah, the community is the best part. I mean, where else can you say, hey, we're going to be at a Brown Arch and everyone come and 20 people show up? Hello, who are you?
Hi, my name is Jen Nipper, and I have APG syndrome.
Should we start a support group? I mean, it's almost like we need to start a support group. Hi, I'm Jen. I have APG syndrome. Hi, Jen.
Exactly. So, yeah, you all know me. I'm from a certain Midwestern mid-sized airport here at AirVenture, having a great time. Hello.
Hi, I'm Chris Pratt. I'm a new APGer, but I've come to meet a bunch of my Twitter friends, and I'm not the Chris Pratt that everybody talks about now. I got that name first, but it's nice to put some real people to Twitter handles and see that they weren't hiding behind avatars.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to know that hey, these are actually human beings, and they're actually pretty cool people in real life, too.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about them all being human beings yet. The amount of av geekery going on is pretty awesome, but flew in with Flying Doctor 17 and enjoying myself.
Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Marty, pilot to be on Twitter. This is my 11th consecutive Oshkosh. Camping at Camp Bacon with a bunch of other great people.
Beautiful.
And it's John Brown, Flying Doctor 17. We just flew in yesterday, Chris and I, and met up with Captain Jeff yesterday. He handed off the Great Canadian Ale package, and he almost broke his back. I hope he's recovering, and you'll get better soon, Jeff. So we're enjoying meeting up with all these people. Evan Shue from Down Under, had dinner with them last night. So getting to know a lot of the folks we see in the chat room and on the website. So great to be here.
Beautiful.
Hi, my name is Carl Bauman. I'm based in the D.C. area near Dulles Airport. I fly to Leesburg Executive. I'm a private pilot right now. Just graduated high school and moving on to college soon. And eventually I want to fly for an airline. So that's my goal. It's a pleasure to be here in Oshkosh. Having a great time. This is my 3rd time. And thank you for having me right here. I appreciate it. Love the meeting.
Hey, everyone. It's Jake Canner from Alabama. Just having a great time here at Oshkosh, hanging out with APG folks.
Hi, I'm Nick Camacho. I've sent a couple feedbacks back when I was living in Kansas or California. Now based in Kansas. This is my 17th AirVenture. I have a Bonanza, but unfortunately took on a couple of tasks that were a little larger undertaking than I had hoped. So ended up riding up here with a buddy and a Baron from Wichita.
Gotcha.
I'm Hillel, voice of Slack, and came up here in our Cherokee, and we're camping on the North 40, and it's a lot of fun to see so many APGers come out to meet up with us, and this is really cool. Next year, I'm sure it'll be bigger.
It was very nice of Captain Jeff to let you out of the closet in his suitcase for a week to come here.
Yeah, he told me he's going to give me all this free flying, and I get all over the place. He didn't exactly mention he's going to keep me in the suitcase the whole time.
Oh, hey, everyone. It's David Abbey. Hanging out with this great APG meetup, and I'm at David Abbey, Abbey on Twitter, and a big fan of the Airline Pilot Guy show, as some of you may know, and it is great to be here, and just want to say that Mike is a podcasting machine, an interview machine.
No, I'm not.
Hello, my name is Erin Miller. I'm Twitter Miller Law MD. And I have a website, finalfight.com, where I talk about the book I'm writing about my grandmother who was a WASP in World War II and the fight that my family went through to get her recognized at Arlington National Cemetery, which is also the subject of the talk I'll be doing here at Oshkosh tomorrow at 11:30.
Where's your talk going to be at?
11:30 a.m. Forum 4.
That's a very important fight. I've heard about it. So thank you for your work of doing all of that.
Well, thanks to the aviation community. They were all super helpful. And we actually had 3 T6s and 3 P-51s do a flyover at her funeral at Arlington National Cemetery in September. And I know at least that 1 P-51 and 1 T6 is here at Oshkosh this year. So
That's awesome.
I'm Glenn, of course, the co-host of the Flying in Life podcast at Oshkosh. I'm NZ Aircraft fan on Twitter and NZ Aircraft fan on Instagram. Thoroughly enjoying this week. It's been absolutely great to meet people like Mike and David, and there's 2 P-51s drowning me out, which is nice. It's just been the most amazing week. The weather has been good most of the time. And yeah, it's just been a really, really good year. And here's the next year. And a great APG meetup.
All right, so I think I got pretty much everybody. I think all of us around here would agree with me as the Ford Tri-Motor takes off. I mean, this is Avgeek Kevin. If you have the opportunity to come to Oshkosh, please make sure you do it. Even if you have to come from New Zealand or Australia, find a way to come here once if you love airplanes. So all of us would like to invite the APG crew here to Oshkosh sometime soon. We would love to have a Farnborough style meetup here in Oshkosh eventually. So this is Mike for the Airline Pilot Guy Show here in Oshkosh. Signing off.
Ah, that was so good. Thank you again, Mike, for doing all that. And really do appreciate that. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be there on Thursday for that. Hey, did you notice at the very beginning, Mike said at the Golden Arch? I think that was like a subconscious thing. I think he was craving hamburgers from McDonald's.
I mean, I've never been there, and I would love to one year. But there is actually a brown arch and a golden arch, I guess.
I guess in Mike's mind, there's a golden arch right next to that brown arch, I guess.
But it sounds like a fantastic place that gets a lot of aviators together, and to get all those APG listeners in one place, absolutely brilliant. Thanks very much, Mike.
And a lot of those folks that he interviewed on Thursday, I got a chance to meet while I was there on Wednesday. So to all of you, really enjoyed seeing you there and met some new people too. So that's cool. I'm going to pause for a moment here. I just remembered that I never sent out a push notification.
Oh, Steph, where are you when we need you?
She's gone. Jeff. What is wrong with you?
Well, you're a busy man at the beginning.
Yeah. Let's see here. Make sure that this actually. Nope, I don't want to put out that link because that will be the link for everybody to join as a host. That would be a big mistake. Okay, hang on. I might get a little bit of echoing here. No, I think I hit the mute just in time. I just need to get this URL, and now I'm going to go over here to the back office of the application and say APG 283 live recording in progress. Now put the link in here.
And then we can chastise everyone that arrives for being late.
Yeah, so where were you?
Yeah. There's a fine for being late.
About time you got here.
Yeah, 2 bottles of beer for every minute you're late.
Yep. Ooh, I like that. Of course, most of the people that have the app probably follow us on Twitter as well or Facebook. So let's see. I hit the send button, but nothing happened. Let's try that again. I think the same thing happened just a few days
there
ago.
You go. It's just arrived in England.
Okay, good. And I'm just getting it myself. It's amazing. Okay, excellent. So now that's out of the way. And one of those folks that Mike was interviewing there, Glenn Towler from New Zealand, Wellington to be exact, also sent in some audio feedback. Let's take a listen to Glenn.
G'day. It's Glenn here from New Zealand, and I'm sure you know my voice quite well by now. And I'm here at Oshkosh, just walking at Boeing Plaza, taking in the sights. to my right, I've got a B-52 Buff. And then next there's a P-51C, RC-12. For those who don't know, it's a Beech King Air reconnaissance aircraft from the US Army. They've just pulled in by tug, an F-22 Raptor. Next to that is Dock. Next to that is Composites. It's I'm looking at jet aircraft. Then next there's an F-16, KC-135, P-8 Poseidon, B-1B, one of Pip's favourite plane, a Embraer Phenom, painted up Millennium Falcon, which looks really cool. And then right in front of me, Colonel Jeff's favourite aircraft, an F-15 Eagle C model from the Louisiana National Guard, I think. Anyway, been an awesome week. Meeting up with Dispatcher Mike again, Jennifer, Dave Abbey, sorry, not Dave Allen, he's a different guy. I met a guy called Neil Taylor yesterday, super nice guy from another fellow APG syndrome sufferer. Introduced me to a few of his New Zealand friends, of all things. There's a guy called Dave Phillips, I think it is. He's actually a test pilot for the De Havilland Mosquito for AvSpecs. So he sounds like a very interesting guy. So I hope to try and get an interview with him later in the day, maybe before the night show. I'll try and see him before we go to dinner tonight. This is as I think I said, this is my last full day at the air show. So, super cool. Oh yeah, and there's also here a HH-47G Chinook, which is basically a special forces type aircraft, all painted in black. A very special looking aircraft with a lot of sensors and one that's for fair share of guns. 2 Gatling guns at the front, 2 what they call Mag 58 7.62 machine guns. So looking forward to a really great day. Blue Angels are flying today. The bomber flypast is happening today. It was great to meet Jeff again on Wednesday. We had a pretty good meet up on Thursday as well. That's it really. Blue skies, tailwinds, and carbo to you all. Glenn out.
Always good to hear the airplanes in the background. That was while Glenn was still at Oshkosh, and now I believe he's home. He either got home early this morning or maybe yesterday, but he just got home relatively recently. Welcome home, and it was a blast seeing you not only at Oshkosh but also in Atlanta the week before, and going to the baseball game and all that. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, he's I'm amazed that guy comes halfway around the world for a show, but I know he spent a lot of time visiting people and dropping in places on the way. He's quite the world traveler, is our Glenn.
Yeah, and he made it over to the U.S. Air Force Museum over at Dayton, and that's something I have not done yet. So anyway, very, very good. All right. Let's see. I guess we can continue with some stuff that we have here in the news folder. I guess the next one, Nick, you kind of alerted me to this, and you thought it was worth talking about, and it was some kind of a study that was done by a couple organizations over there in the UK.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind me dropping it in, but it just arrived in my inbox. Now, I'm a member of the British Airline Pilots Association, the major airline pilots union in the UK, and they sent a report out. Now, they helped fund a study into the risk of a collision with a drone. Now, we've talked about drones a lot, Jeff, haven't we? And we're continually being highlighted to the dangers, but no one actually knew what the dangers were if you flew into one. We knew a fair amount about bird strikes, not only from the testing that's done, but also from the number of bird strikes that have occurred. But no one really knew what was going to happen if a bird hit you. So the British military, the Department of Transport, and the British Airline Pilots Association clubbed together and got the testing authorities to throw a few drones at airplanes. I mean, the way they do it isn't quite like that. They set up some windshields and a mock-up cockpit, or it might even be part of a real aircraft. And then they fire down a rail, usually a bird. In this case, they fired drones at the aircraft to see what penetration they would achieve. And the worst level they were, well, the level they were looking for was, quote, critical damage, unquote. And that's defined as a major structural damage of the aircraft component or penetration of the drone through the windshield into the cockpit. Now, that's about the most serious as it's going to get. Of course, that just really means hitting the airframe. They didn't investigate the problems of what would happen if it went into an engine. I think that would be a lot worse. But they highlight that there were 70 air proxies. That means a drone getting very close to an aircraft, close enough for the crew to think there is a risk of collision. There were 70 in 2016. And so far in 2017, up to the end of May, there have already been 34. So we've already got through half last year's number, and we're not even halfway through, or by the end of May, we weren't halfway through the year. So it's predicted to be more this year. And of course, the number of drones being sold is forever increasing. So I think it was important that someone somewhere in the world actually did some physical tests just to quantify the level of damage. Now, what they did was they took various categories of aircraft, really. GA aircraft, helicopters and light aircraft, and they, of course, don't have to have bird strike certified windshields. They do have a bird strike certified windshield for light aircraft, but that is usually for a commercial style one. So they did non-bird strike certified, bird strike certified, and then airliners with Class A and Class B windshields. Class A is the really thick and heavy.
Uh-oh. Am I still on the air?
Ones that.
I'm sorry. We had some kind of an interruption there. I don't know if it was most likely my bandwidth because I'm using the hotel Wi-Fi. So
actually, my lights in the house are flashing.
Oh,
we may have a possible power outage. How far did you get through? Do you want me to start anything again?
It was just a couple sentences ago.
Okay. So we're basically looking at the types of collisions. So they looked at various different sizes of drone, right down from the little lightweight ones up to 1.2 kilograms. Now that's the sort of DJI Phantom size, up to 4 kilogram quadcopter size, and then up to the even larger ones, which would be the sort of DJI S1000 size, which is surprisingly only about 1,500 quid. So it's going to be, I don't know, about $2,000. And that's, I think it's got 8 propellers on it and can carry a digital single-lens reflex SLR style camera. So what we're really interested in is what kind of damage were they going to do. So they discovered that even the lightweight drones would do critical damage, and remember that means penetrating through the windshield into the aircraft on helicopters and light aircraft. The heavier drones would even penetrate a helicopter windshield if the helicopter was hovering and the drone was moving forwards. So we're talking about combined speed. So the heavy ones will go straight through the front end of a helicopter, which is a significant problem.
Yeah.
The smaller, sorry, the bird strike certified light GA aircraft, the lighter ones, it wasn't definitely damaged, but certainly the heavy ones would go through the windshield of a bird strike certified GA aircraft. When it came to the airliners, they found that the altitudes and speeds that occurred with penetration, you needed the heavy style of drone, first of all. So 3.5 kg would go through Class B, the slightly lighter windshield, and the 4 kilogram class would go through a Type A. Now, the interesting thing is that DJI one I mentioned, that actually goes up to a max operating weight of 11 kilograms. So that's more than twice the weight of the testing ones. Anyway, they discovered that the combined altitude had to be fairly high, but it would penetrate an airliner windshield. Particularly, if it was a metal component. A lot of the larger drones, they do have metal arms, and they have no plastic padding on them at all, really. That would soften the impact. So it's a very interesting study. It will be out everywhere. I'm sure we can put a copy with the show notes if you're interested in reading it in detail. But at last, it absolutely quantifies the damage that can be done and justifies our concern about having these drones flying around with us.
Just out of curiosity, did they do any tests on like plastic bags? No, okay, just kidding.
No, but they did, of course, look at helicopter rotor damage, and any size of rotor. Drone will give critical damage to a rotor, and you take out a helicopter's rotor, there's not a lot he can do to survive or to bring the aircraft down safely. That's for sure.
Well, I'm glad that somebody finally did some kind of a study, and as you said, in an attempt to quantify, what the potential damage could be, and so again, hopefully, you mentioned that the number of incidents is on the rise. Barbara in the chat room says that she, as she was plane watching, she's already witnessed 2 drone incidents herself at East Midlands Airport.
Well, for those of us in the UK, I can recommend an app you can get for free. It's put out by the National Air Traffic Service, NATS, and it's called Drone Assist. And it's a very clever little app. And you just turn it on, and it works out your position, and it plots around you all the areas where you can't or should fly your drone with care, and shows you all the areas where you might hit power lines and masts and that sort of thing. So you're less likely to crash your drone, but much more importantly, it shows you where the airfields are, where you might get pleasure flights, where you might get pipeline inspection, helicopters, all those sort of things. And people seem to have a blind eye when it comes to this. One of my friends who has a great interest in aviation was having a cup of tea with me the other day, and he said, "Oh, I've got 2 of these drones from China." He says, "They're brilliant." I said, "Oh, really?" "Yeah." He says, "Well, they go very high." I said, "Well, you shouldn't fly them above 400 feet." And he said, "Oh, no, I fly it up to 1,000. I said, that's illegal. There are aircraft flying around above 500 feet, which is why 400 feet's the drone limit. So it gives you a 100-foot buffer." And he says, "Oh, no. If I see one, I'll bring it down." And I'm going, "Oh, please."
Right. But by the time you see it, it's going to be too late.
Exactly. So I don't know. What can you do?
Yes, Hamish T. Haggis says the FAA has something similar for U.S. airspace, an app called B4U Fly. So I'll try to remember to put both of those app links in the show notes. No promises, though.
Excellent. Thanks, Hamish.
Yeah. And Adam Spink says, yes, Drone Assist is a good app. That's the one you're talking about, I guess, that puts out.
Yeah, I wish the guy that flew one into the approach path of Gatwick Airport the other day, twice in one day, closed the airport. They had lots of diversions twice. I wish he had that app, because I just slapped my forehead, thinking about how stupid.
I think it's one of those things where, law-abiding citizens usually are the most affected by these things, and they're the ones that really don't need this kind of. I mean, that's the problem. The people, the yahoos are up there flying at 1,000 feet. They're not going to use this stupid app. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not a stupid app. They're not going to use this app because
they're stupid.
They don't care. Yeah, they're stupid. They are, not the app.
Yeah.
No,
I agree. But we can just keep pushing the word out there and hope our listeners will as well.
There you have it. All right, very good. So yes, I will put a link to this report. It's a PDF, nicely done, in the show notes. Speaking of near misses or near hits, I guess, this I just saw pretty recently. This is from, let's see, what publication. I want to make sure that I give proper credit. This is from abcnews.go.com. A jet passed within 10 minutes of where North Korean missile test landed, official says. Commercial airliner flew past the location where North Korea's recent intercontinental ballistic missile test would land in the Sea of Japan less than 10 minutes later. So it went by, and then 10 minutes later, the thing landed pretty close to where it had tracked over the Sea of Japan. Flight data from the time of the ICBM's landing on Friday indicates that the aircraft that was potentially in danger was Air France Flight 293 traveling from Tokyo to Paris. The plane's path shows the Boeing 777 traveling. Oh, it's just a Boeing 777, so I guess no loss there, right?
Still in the buffs.
Traveling west of Hokkaido as the North Korean ICBM was airborne. And in a statement to ABC News, Air France said North Korea's missile test zones don't interfere in any way with Air France's flight paths, and that the flight was operated without any reported incident. So they were kind of being on the defensive, saying it was no problem. No need, nothing to see here. Move on. But I'm not sure that the North Korean government would really care that much about, making sure that it falls within the proper zone. Maybe they would. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought so.
Anyway, a Pentagon spokesman, Captain Jeff Davis, said this missile flew through busy airspace used by commercial airliners. So it landed in Japan's exclusive economic zone and an area that's used by commercial and fishing vessels. All of this completely uncoordinated. So yeah, it looks like maybe it could have been a problem, but fortunately not.
Yeah, it was an interesting article. I read it, but I was a little bit amused at the photograph that was at the top of the actual article when I read it, because it was a Airbus A380.
Close enough. It didn't say Air France on it?
It's an airplane. It said Air France on it, yes. It
okay,
did say.
Well, then, you got to give them, the benefit of the doubt there. So we'll give them some points for actually, having the correct airline in the picture.
That's true, yeah.
And it was a big
777's a smaller target.
Yeah, that's true. That 380, I'm sure it would have hit because it's such a big target.
It takes 10 minutes to fly by.
Yeah, almost. Just seems that way. Okay, let's see. I just saw this, I think, today. This is from The Independent, a fine news publication, I'm sure. Let's see. A teenage boy opened an emergency door after his plane landed, slid down the wing, and jumped onto the tarmac at San Francisco before shocked passengers could do anything to stop him, witnesses said. The 17-year-old, a U.S. citizen, removed the door minutes after the Copa Airlines flight arrived from Central America, San Francisco airport spokesman Doug Yackel said. An airport construction crew working nearby confronted the boy and held him until police arrived and arrested him. The teenager, who appeared to be in emotional distress during the flight, was not injured. Witnesses said that the boy seemed fidgety and anxious throughout the 7-hour flight from Panama City, Panama, and that by the time passengers realized that the door had been opened, he was already on the ground running. I think it was one of the overwing exits. Sophia Gibson of San Jose, California, and people sitting next to him were shocked when he jumped out of the plane and onto the wing. It was as if he was flying out, like it was really fast, Ms. Gibson told San Jose television station KNTV. Copa Airlines said in a statement that overwing emergency exits are designed to be opened by passengers after the plane reaches a lower altitude. Like the ground. It's kind of an interesting way to say that.
The slides aren't that long, mate.
Okay. Yeah, they're designed to be opened by passengers after the plane, and I'm going to do my editorial work here, it reaches the ground to allow for an evacuation in case of an emergency. But it is a federal law violation to open them without having been instructed to do so by the crew. Let's see. The Matt Crowder of Atherton, California, said people sitting near the exit row stood up when the boy jumped out and started to shout. They were yelling, "Tell the flight attendants!" Relay the message back. The door's open. Someone jumped off. The Panama-based airline said in a brief statement that the plane then taxied to the gate where all the other passengers disembarked. Copa Airlines Flight 208 without incident. Passenger Isaac Rodriguez said a flight attendant used her body to block the gap where the door had been until the plane was at the gate. So anyway, interesting. We hear about people's attempts to open doors in flight, and this one was on the ground, and guess what? On the ground, the airplane is depressurized, so you can actually open up a door and jump out of the airplane. Not a good idea. We don't recommend it here at the APG.
No, particularly since I don't know what aircraft type it was. Do you know, Jeff?
I don't know if it said so in the article, but I'm guessing it was a 737.
Okay, but I mean, there's going to be engines running.
Yeah.
So if it's an overwing and he jumps off the wing, he could jump directly into the exhaust blast, and that would bowl him over and could cause him serious injury. Or he could jump off the front of the wing and disappear down the front of the engine, which is going to be a very tragic ending. So it's an incredibly stupid thing to do. If anyone thinks of it, might be an amusing stunt, apart from being probably incredibly expensive in the way of being fined or perhaps even going to prison. But yeah, absolutely remarkable. Can't believe it. And I'm a bit surprised that I guess he was a 17-year-old, but if they thought he was agitated and behaving a bit strangely, wouldn't the needs to put an able-bodied person beside the emergency exits sort of give the crew a clue to shift him away and put someone else there? I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like that would have been prudent, but perhaps they didn't think that he was that bad off.
Yeah, you're right.
And who would be crazy enough to open up the overwing exit if you really weren't doing an emergency evacuation?
Absolutely.
Well, this kid, for one. Let's see. I'm going to do a quick search here. Copa Airline 208. Let's see what kind of airplane that they operate on that flight. This is on air.com. Free plug. Please send money. Tracking, connecting, lightning speed internet bandwidth here at the studio in Chicago. Not.
I had the engineer around yesterday looking at mine.
Oh, did they find anything?
No. He said it's there's a problem at the big box where all the connections are for the entire area.
Okay, well, this thing is just says connecting, and it's not going much further.
COPA. I'm trying flight radar.
Yeah, Copa 208. I'm a little disappointed in our chat room folks. I would have figured by now they would have said, done the research for us and let us know what kind of airplane. But my guess is a 737. And I guess we're never going to know because my browser.
You know what the code is for Copa?
Yeah, it is. Well, I did when I did the search for it. CMP, I think.
CMP.
Yeah.
208. No result.
All right. Well, whatever. Doesn't matter. I'm sure it was a.
Found it. Panama City to San Fran.
Mm-hmm.
It departed. Do you want to know what time it departed? It's a 737-8.
Okay. And Micah says 737, 700, and 800s. Okay, very good. So, yep, we just as we suspected, could have been a bad outcome because going out on that wing when the engine is running is not a smart thing to do.
I think it's interesting though. It would be a good lead into today's plain tale, but we'll just have to wait for that.
Yeah, you're right. It would be. I have a feeling it has something to do with 737s and
evacuations.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't it? Okay. This is a good one. I don't know if you had a chance to read this one from the Sun. Dramatic moment. Hero pilot saved 127 people in risky landing.
Oh, yeah, I did read this, and I watched the video too.
A brave, this is in all caps, a brave pilot landed a passenger jet blind after giant hailstones smashed the cockpit's windscreen and almost tore off its nose cone. These incredible pictures show the plane at the pilot's heroic emergency landing at Istanbul's Ataturk Airport with 127 passengers on board. They show the severe external damage to the Airbus A320 from sudden, unexpected hail during a thunderstorm. And
yes, okay.
Passengers crying and praying as the stricken plane comes to a shaky landing.
I think we're both thinking the same thing, Jeff.
Yes. A voice on the ground is heard saying, "He won't do it. He won't do it." But Captain Alexander Akapov said he and the other crew were celebrating as if it were a second birthday after his life-saving heroics in coping with damage caused by hailstones the size of hen's eggs. Incredibly, his autopilot was taken out in the damage. "I've been flying for 30 years, he said. "Well, did you see the plane landing? Was it okay? The passengers are alive. It is normal. This is our professional reliability." Okay. Our locator, this must be a translation. "Our locator did not show this weather disaster. This is why it happened. It was hard, but the main thing is that people are alive." The catastrophe hit some 10 minutes after taking off a Turkish airline Atlas Global flight to Erkan, E-R-K-A-N, in northern Cyprus. Having climbed to 1,300 meters, the hailstones cracked the cockpit windows, preventing the pilot from seeing his runway approach. The captain was permitted to try and land at Ataturk Airport, even though it had been closed due to the atrocious weather. Full-scale emergency protocol was in place, with fire appliances and ambulances awaiting the plane. A video shows a woman with red nails. Why? We didn't have to know the color of her nails, I'm not sure, gripping a seat because of the plane's extreme shaking during the landing. Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko called the captain to congratulate him and awarded him with the Ukrainian Order of Courage. Oh boy. So aviation experts are also praising the two Turkish cabin crew for their bravery. Okay. So
very brave.
Yeah, very, very brave. This reminds me, and I'm not saying that this is what happened here, but there was a story that I've told on this show before, years and years ago, when it was ValueJet Airlines in Atlanta, and it was a very, very bad day for weather in Atlanta, and there were, let's just say, it was very colorful on the radar. Lots of red and yellow storms on the radar screen, and the control tower was asking if anybody wanted to go, and all of our Atlas flights were saying, "No, are you kidding me?" I mean, it's like, who would be crazy enough to fly in this? Then along comes the the ValueJet pilot said, "Yeah, well, we can go. We can take a takeoff." And we were just like, what? He's really going to fly in this? Takes off, heads to the north, flies right into the red, super attenuating stuff on the radar. And that wasn't long after that there was an emergency aircraft coming back to Atlanta with its windscreen completely pummeled by hail. And they landed, and of course the pilot was was just lauded as a hero, just as this pilot was. Then it wasn't long after that the FAA started looking into it and decided that he was not a hero. He was an idiot. Basically risked the lives of passengers. I believe that guy's license was suspended, and I don't know if he ever got it back. Because he endangered the passengers. He had no business flying in that stuff. But again, I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but I have my suspicions.
Yeah, it would be a bit late to take away the Ukrainian Order of Courage. But to be fair, the only person I've ever seen fly through a thunderstorm was a Turkish A340, and we were 2 in a row. So it was Turkish ahead of us, getting airborne out of Johannesburg, and we were getting airborne on the sort of southerly pointing runway. So we both had to do a right hand, more or less a 180 on the departure to get heading north back up towards Europe. And we watched him get airborne. We'd already had a bit of a contretemps with him because he hadn't got any nav lights and it was dark, and I think it's a legal requirement to have navigation lights on an aircraft flying in the night.
Yes.
So we said to him, "Oi, Turkish, you forgot to turn your nav lights on." And there was absolutely no answer. And we said to the tower, "Johannesburg, Turkish doesn't have his nav lights on." So they said, "Turkish, you need to turn your nav lights on." And he said, "Roger." And that's all he said. No nav lights appeared. And he got airborne. Anyway, we were airborne directly behind him. As we turned around the corner and our radar started painting the second part of the SID after the turn, we saw this huge thunderstorm sitting there right in the middle of the departure lane. So we basically said, right, well, we're not going to turn north. We're going to roll out here and head 6 degrees left. But we watched his TCAS symbol go right through the middle of this thunderstorm. And I thought, well, perhaps his nav lights aren't the only thing that's not working. But miraculously, he came out the other side again. So there you go.
There you go. And that just supports the fact that you don't have to go around these thunderstorms.
Oh, absolutely. You can just plow straight through the middle.
Right through them, and there's not a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, I don't know if we'll hear anything else about this or if there's going to be any kind of an investigation. If we do hear about it, we'll certainly report it here. But I just think that those passengers should maybe think twice about whether they should heap a lot of praise on this guy and this crew.
We'll see.
Yeah. Because, these kind of storms that have this kind of hail don't just appear just out of nowhere. I'm sure that it was on the radar. Perhaps they were
it would
using...
have to be. I mean, the hail would be, if it's the size of a hailstone, then be big hailstones done a lot of damage. I mean, the size of a thunderstorm that's going to support that kind of weight of precipitation is going to be pretty intense. And the thing is that the radar bounces off the radar, so the physical things inside a thunderstorm. And with hailstones that big going up and down, the radar would have been pinging like nobody's business. I mean, it should have been sitting there, a huge red, "Do not go here," blob.
Oh, it's possible. I don't know what the radar is like in the Airbus. I would imagine they probably have different manufacturers and different models and that kind of thing. But it is possible on our radar to adjust. Normally the gain is on auto, but it's possible to lower the gain all the way down, and it almost looks, if you glance at the switch, it almost looks like it's an auto, but it's actually at the complete minimum setting. If you have the gain all the way down to minimum, or you don't have the angle of the radar screen, or not radar screen, but radar antenna in the right place, it's possible to miss even a huge thunderstorm like that.
Yeah, I guess so. Our SOP is to set it to 5 degrees up, so we make sure we look into our climb path, and we do get an airborne in auto. But you're right. I personally think it's a bit of a design glitch. They should have auto beside maximum, not auto beside minimum, so that you take away the possibility of accidentally leaving it in minimum.
I was flying at night heading into JFK from Atlanta, and I was just looking at the radar, and I'm thinking, and we were IMC, and I was just looking at all this red, and I'm going, wow, I'm surprised I'm not hearing anybody talk about the severe weather, or I don't hear anybody asking for deviations, and I'm going, what in the world is going on here? And I was starting to almost freak out, and then I leaned down and made sure that it was an auto, and it was all the way to the max setting. And so when I turned it back to auto, it went, oh, okay. All of it disappeared. It was some green stuff, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
I was really...
At least it alerted you to it. I mean, the other fault we have on our aircraft is that you've got 2 brightness displays on the navigation side. One controls just the screen and the symbols, and the other controls the radar, which is underlaid, as it were. It appears behind them, and that's a little collar behind the main collar. And it is it really annoys me that people, when they turn the screen off, they turn both these knobs to the left, because you don't need to. You only need to turn one off,
right?
And you should leave the other one cranked to max, because Sometimes when you turn them on, you swing one and you don't swing the other one, and you've got the radar on, but it's actually brightness is so low that you can't see it on your screen. And few people have fallen foul of that. Got able on a nice day and they're tootling along and they don't even realize that they can't see their radar is given because bright is turned low.
Man. Yeah, that's not good. A lot of pitfalls out there, but
yeah.
Anywho,
just got to be aware of them.
Got to be aware. Got to be aware. All right. Well, I think that does it for our news segment tonight. Now it's time for us to tackle your feedback.
Captain, incoming message.
Oh, and I just realized that I only have 3 items in the feedback folder. That's okay. We can go to the regular feedback folder in a bit and actually have a normal amount of feedback for the show. So I knew there was one more thing to do. Okay, let's see. You know what? I'm just going to pause right here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag some of these things that I want to talk about on today's show. That isn't one thing, it's another, isn't it? You're still there, right?
I'll just grab, sorry, I hadn't muted myself. I'll just grab a beer while you're pausing.
Okay, please do. By the way, Steve, sorry. Yeah, Sean McHale, he sent a link to that story we just talked about, the giant hailstones shattering the cockpit windscreen. And he says, I'm not sure who had the bigger stones in this case, the hail or the pilots. Ba-doom, bam. All right. I'm going to put that one in there. And oh, this stuff just keeps on coming. I thought I was all caught up. Apparently not. Let's see. Put that one there. And that one. And oh, I definitely want to talk about this one. And that one. We'll skip the one about Dana. Oh, Ross has an update for us on his trip. Let's see.
Okay, a pair of Spitfires, just like in the movie Dunkirk.
Oh, I'm not looking at the video. I'm assuming you're talking about beers.
Yes, Spitfire beer. A nice Kentish ale. Very good.
All right.
Have you seen the movie yet? Dunkirk?
No, I haven't. I heard it was very good.
I enjoyed it very much, yeah.
All right. Let me do something here that I...
Oh my God, look at all this stuff to talk about.
See, all of a sudden now it's full.
Well, that was quick.
Where is the one that I just put in there from Rebecca? Where'd you go? Sometimes I drag these things around and then they just kind of like disappear. Where did it go?
Is it just taking a little while to sync up?
Maybe. Maybe that's the problem because this internet connection is not the best. But sometimes it's just I'm looking right at it and I just don't see it. Kind of like going to the refrigerator door and opening it up and looking for something. And then
and
I ask
only
my wife where it is, and then she goes right in front of where I'm looking. You know, it's right here. Oh, sorry.
I don't actually see it. I don't see Rebecca's name anywhere.
Okay, so I'm going to do a search then because I know I just did something with it. Oval pilot style. What happened to it? Oh, I accidentally put it in the wrong folder.
By the way, we've got something from Miami Hick here that just says audio.
Yep.
Oh, you've got some separate audio. Okay.
Yep.
Somewhere else. Good.
Yep. Yeah, because the way I'm doing everything now, I'm putting all the audio clips on the iPad.
Ah.
All right. Let me click on this first here and see if this stinking bandwidth will give me anything here.
Can't be bad bandwidth. You're getting your videos. Good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to have to turn on the echo button so everybody can hear this when it comes time. So, okay, let's start with some feedback from Rebecca. And she just put proposal pilot style and then sent a link to a facebook.com post. And let's take a listen. Looks like it's a video on Facebook. And I'm going to hit the play button and we can all listen together. I'm not hearing anything. Okay. Why not? Do you hear anything?
No, I don't actually see the feedback yet either.
Well, it's just the link.
Oh, okay. Well,
okay. Well, for some reason, the thing muted itself. I did not mute it. Okay. Here we go.
I'm not getting any response from the controls here. Next one. We might have to land in the field. I'm not even getting it.
Inside of an airplane. This girl is praying right now. She has her hand on her chest. She has her eyes closed.
Can you grab the checklist from the side? Can you start from the top, please?
Okay, he wants her to read a
Just don't
checklist.
panic. The next one over. Page 2. Got it? Okay, go for it. Okay, got it. Oh, we're getting some response. What's go on? Go on, please. I hate you. Huh? Can you please tell me, can you keep reading to the steps, hon?
Will the pilot in command love the passenger forever? Check.
Now he's bringing a box, a red box, out with an engagement ring.
Such an idiot.
Is that a yes?
No freaking I. Don't ever do that to me again.
Well, I don't think he will, since usually you only propose marriage once.
Yes. I found that quite amusing too.
So yeah, you really have to watch the video. It's it's a camera mounted on the dash, and
yeah, her reaction is quite impressive, isn't it?
Right, it is. It is. So
and she really looks pretty terrified when he tells her that they're going to do an emergency landing, and she's got to grab the emergency checklist and read it to him.
Yeah, very, very cute. So thank you for Rebecca for sending us that. I know it was a while ago. It was in June when she sent that piece of feedback to us, but we got to it eventually. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes so you can all look at that as well. And it's just, as Captain Nick says, her reaction, especially her nonverbal, her facial expressions, everything else. It's pretty funny. Okay, moving on. Peter sent in some feedback. Peter Koffel. Greetings, Captain Jeff. My name is Peter Koffel from Clarkston, Michigan. I've been listening to your podcast online for a few years now. I just now downloaded your app from Google Play. Your podcast is very interesting, and I've been an aviation enthusiast since early childhood. Keep up the good work and happy flying. So, and the reason why I wanted to mention that is because that's a good time to mention the fact that we do have apps for your smartphone, whether it be an Apple product, an iOS device, or an Android device. You can find the app for free on the App Store, and you can get a push notification if I remember to send one out when we're recording the show and when the show has been released. And you can listen to the podcast, the audio podcast, right there on the app if you want. Also, you can watch the YouTube video through the app as well. So lots of others.
It's a great app. And while you're in iTunes looking for it, how about popping across and leaving us a little review? That would be kind of cool, because the more reviews we get, the more listeners we're going to get.
Absolutely. And thanks to you, our listeners, our show is consistently one of the top rated aviation podcasts out there in the what's hot category, and news, new and noteworthy, and all that kind of stuff. We're not new, but apparently we're noteworthy. So, and that's thanks to those of you who are subscribed via iTunes, and those of you really leaving reviews.
Yeah, many thanks.
Do appreciate that. Louisiana Steve was at Oshkosh, got a chance to meet him for the first time. He sent us some feedback on the 3rd of July, and he says, good morning, APG crew. As if airport security wasn't a PITA, pain in the arse already, people pulling tricks like this will make it even worse. I'm not sure what this guy was planning to do once he had possession of the helicopter. I assume he planned to fly somewhere until he jumped in and realized it was a lot more complicated than his video games. And then he sends us a link to this article from CNN. Apparently outside of Portland, Oregon, Hillsborough Airport, a man climbed over a fence and approached a helicopter with the engine running. And the police say the incident was not believed to be an act of terrorism. And let's see, Police Lieutenant Henry Ryman said the armed man climbed a fence at the local airport, approached the helicopter in the hangar owned by Hillsborough Aero Academy about 11:30 a.m. local time. An Academy employee was showing his girlfriend the helicopter, which had the engine switched on. I guess what they mean is the engine was running. The suspect fired into the air and ordered the two out before climbing into the helicopter. 3 other Academy employees then pointed weapons at the suspect.
All these guys working in the hangar, they're all packing.
I know. I was surprised when I read that sentence. Really?
Yeah, I don't know. What's this place like? Is it out in the Wild West?
Well, it's in the Pacific Northwest. That kind of surprises me that so many, and not only just one employee.
3 of them.
Anyway, so don't be messing around with these people.
No, they're serious people.
Yeah. So anyway, the suspect ran away from the aircraft, and then the police and the suspect exchanged gunfire as he jumped a fence and ran into a field. And then another Hillsborough officer fatally shot the man in the field near the airport. So got a little audio clip of a witness just before this guy jumped the fence and went over to the helicopter to try to hijack it or whatever. This man was there with his family at the airport. I think they were doing some plane spotting, and let's take a listen here.
The suspect there came from across the street onto the sidewalk, and as he was coming by, he had on a gray hoodie, and I thought for a minute, it's kind of hot to have this hoodie on, hands in his pockets. As he goes by us, he looks directly at me, and then turns, and as soon as he turns, he pulls the gray mask over his face.
Yeah, so exciting stuff. And as you said, thankfully, the guy didn't, do something bad to him or his family.
Oh yeah, talking of bad, we could have had the bad boys bit there.
Oh yeah, darn it.
Darn.
Oh well.
Blast.
That's in another app. Oh well. Yeah, I should have played that. I should have started with that, shouldn't have I?
Ah, damn! It would have been so good if only we could do that in post.
Yeah, well, I can maybe slam that in there, squeeze that in. So if you're listening to this on the audio podcast right now, you're going to go, well, you did have it playing, Jeff.
Yeah, what are you talking about? You go, Jeff?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Not much else to talk about there. I guess the guy thought he was going to be able to just get into a helicopter and fly it.
Yeah.
Not a good idea. Mike, quickly moving on here. Hey all. This is mostly to Jeff and Dana. You guys often mention that the new stars into Atlanta don't work well and were very costly to come up with. Were they created to increase fuel efficiency and reduce travel time? Yes and yes. That was the goal, I guess. Often when I look at flight radar, I see aircraft making very long, wide S-turn type maneuvers or strangely random looking 75 to 90 degree turns, especially coming from the northeast quadrant. Coming from the west, even slightly north of the 270 radial from Atlanta, I see aircraft flying southeast only to have to travel north to arrive at the airport. Is this all a byproduct of the so-called new and improved readings, or is there more to it than just that? Were the SIDS actually more efficient before I think he means the stars, more efficient before the changes? Lastly, have you experienced anything similar at other airports that have their procedures revamped? So in answer to that, I don't think it specifically has anything to do with these new star procedures. The tracks that are on these new arrival procedures are essentially the same tracks that we've been flying for 25, 30 years or more. It's all the altitude blocks and speed assignments and everything else that kind of get my goat. I like the old-fashioned way of the guys just saying, descend to this altitude and slow to this speed and kind of, manage and control us, because they are controllers. And that way they can more effectively and more efficiently control traffic coming into the airport, because that's essentially what happens anyway. Even if we're on one of these new standard instrument arrival procedures, they end up having to do the same thing like they used to do before we had these newfangled stars in the past. But Atlanta is one of those places where you have a lot of weather, especially this time of year, thunderstorms and that kind of thing. And you just can't fly the tracks that are published. And the patterns that you're seeing on Flight Radar, Flight Aware, all those other plane tracking apps are typical patterns for coming in and aligning ourselves with the runways and that kind of thing. So I would say no, what you were seeing there has nothing to do with the new stars. And again, pretty much the same track as always. It's just the requiring the pilots to be their own controllers. That's the thing I have a beef about. But anyway.
You think you think this is really being aimed at the future, when they will use the fact that the pilots are doing their own self-controlled approaches to cut down on the number of... Oh, you're nodding. The podcast people can't see you, but Jeff is really furiously nodding, thinking that this is really going to be a cost-cutting exercise to cut down on the number of controllers. And I have to agree. Yeah,
I think so. I don't know if the controllers out there suspect that or not, but I would be suspicious. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's just interesting how they're shifting responsibilities so much on the pilots. And then, I think that's step one, to get rid of a lot of the controllers, because, hey, we're doing everything on our own anyway. And then number two, now that's all set and we have all this high automation. Now we're set for removing pilots from the airplane. And again, I just don't see that happening successfully. But
then we'll have remote air traffic control cameras, and everything be done from a central visual control simulation base. A bit like, a bunch of guys flying drones over Afghanistan. It'll be a bunch of controllers in porter cabins working the visual control of every airfield.
Yeah. I wouldn't rule it out.
No.
I think the airline execs would love to see something like that, because as far as labor costs are concerned, we pilots are at the top end of that scale. And they would love to get rid of that if they could.
Yeah.
But as you know, listening to the show, if you listened to it in the past, you know that I just don't see it happening. They can dream, but you ain't going to take the pilot out of these airplanes, especially with passengers on board.
Yeah.
It's just too many. So just to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that. So people ask, well, doesn't it, isn't your job kind of boring and you're flying the same routes over and over and over again? And I said, well, yeah, but every time we do it, it's a different flight because of the changing dynamics of the flight, mostly weather related stuff, but it could be mechanical issues. It could be all kinds of different things that change that same flight that you fly from Atlanta to Baltimore and Baltimore to Atlanta. Well, you know what? You do it 2 days later, it's going to be a different flight, even though it's the same track and the same altitudes and everything else. It's a different flight because this is a dynamic world we live in. And I'm not sure that automation is set up to handle it.
Certainly not. And people think of the atmosphere as being something reasonably benign. Well, it is not. It can be incredibly violent. And I wouldn't like to be up there facing bad weather at a lousy airport with no pilot on board to keep an eye on what the hell's going on.
Right. Exactly. Hey, look at this. We have some feedback, some audio feedback from somebody we haven't heard from in a while. So I'm just going to push this button and we're all going to enjoy this, I think.
Hello, aviation weirdos. Mrs. Nev here. Well, it has been some time since my last blog, Christmas in fact, but the time has come for the next one. Last time I managed to get into Nev's studio when he wasn't around. Unfortunately, he wasn't too impressed and I have now been banned. So here I am, sitting in the downstairs loo, recording on my phone instead. Needs must when the devil drives, eh? As Nev may have told you, I am not a fan of flying. It's not that I'm scared the plane will crash, although there is always the possibility. It's just the sensation of flying that I'm most uncomfortable with. Too much like amusement parks for my liking. I have seen the bottom of too many sick bags over the years, so much so that I have to take travel sickness tablets beforehand, whilst I am sinking a vodka and Diet Coke in the British Airways lounge. Anyway, once on the plane, I quietly sit with my seatbelt fastened, waiting for the other inconsiderate passengers struggle with their huge luggage, trying to get it in the overhead compartment. Have they never heard of checking it in? I think the cabin crew must have the patience of a saint to deal with some of the passengers. It's certainly a job I couldn't do. Sitting here in the loo reminds me that toilets on a plane are quite something. I'm not exactly a large person and I struggle with the cramped space. Once, whilst trying to seat myself on the loo, we hit a bit of turbulence and I ended up headbutting the door. And what's this all Mile High Club? It's bad enough with just one person in there, but two doing heaven knows what? Not my idea of fun. However, when we travel business class, sorry, I'm a bit of a snob, I do like the little things that make my flight that bit more enjoyable. Not just the hot, wet flannel, and that's not Nev I'm talking about, but the food, real cutlery and proper napkins. When we flew out to Croatia a couple of months ago, we got a tray with some lovely smoked duck and salad, along with cheese and biscuits and a gooey dessert. Not bad, I thought, for lunch, until the cabin crew came round afterwards with hot smoked salmon and pasta and announced that this was the main course. I had already eaten what turned out to be the starter and the pud. Oops. Anyway, finally, my main niggle is when there are children in business class. I do think it should be for adults only, especially when the flights are quite a bit more expensive and you're paying for peace and quiet. And then you get some fractious child bawling their head off or kicking the back of your seat with the parents oblivious to what's going on. Is there no consideration for other passengers? Either have a child-friendly section well away from business class or put them in the hold. Uh-oh, someone is trying the door handle. I've been found out. Coming! Bye for now. This loo seat is a bit uncomfortable anyway, and my phone battery is low. Until the next time.
Nev, was that you trying to break into the bathroom? How rude.
That was great. We love you. We love you, Mrs. Nev. Brilliant. Good job.
That was great. Too late, Nev. He said, Jeff, turn it off. She doesn't know what she's talking about. That's great. Always good to hear from Mrs. Nev.
She's pretty good with that audio equipment, considering she was in the loo. Yeah,
she had the reverb and everything all set up. It was nice.
It's good. Very professional.
Yes. Oh boy, that's great. Always a treat to hear from Mrs. Nev. Okay, let's see. Let's continue on. Miami Hicks sent in some feedback about a month ago, a little bit less. In regards to the commute to work being considered on duty or not. Okay, that was when we were talking about the Colgan 5407 45. I've already forgotten the number now. Anyway, the crash in Buffalo that spurred this, high hourly requirement and that kind of thing. And we were talking about commuting and whether or not that should be considered on duty time or not. He said he wanted to put his 2 cents in as a truck driver. The Walmart truck that crashed into a limousine van carrying Tracy Morgan and several other comedians that resulted in serious injuries for Tracy and killing another comedian was caused by the truck driver falling asleep and not seeing the stopped traffic in front of him. I later learned this driver lived in Georgia, but the terminal where the truck leaves from was in Virginia. He drove 9 hours from Georgia to Virginia in his personal car and then climbed into the tractor trailer and started his day. So by the time he crashed, he had been awake for about 25 hours. I believe if a commute is longer than 2 hours, it should count as on duty. Miami Hick, over and out. A lot of people would agree with that. Miami
Absolutely.
Hick, except for the
I think,
commuters.
I think he also rules that you shouldn't commute for more than an hour and a quarter, hour and a half, somewhere around there. Before commencing duty, or if you do, you should take a rest period before you start.
Yeah, I think it just makes sense. Again, I think I'm going to get some pushback from people who routinely, commute for whatever reason, for lifestyle, for convenience, because family is located here and your job, your domicile is located somewhere else, and those are all good reasons to commute. It's just that I think that you have to really think about safety as well. And if you're going to have a long commute before you start your duty day, then perhaps you just got to sacrifice and get there the previous day so that you can get a good night's sleep and be prepared for the flying. But
yeah, I'm afraid safety comes ahead of lifestyle.
Yep, I agree. And for all those out there that are throwing tomatoes at me, take your best shot.
Yeah. I will make some tomato soup or chutney out of it, Jeff.
There you go. Making lemonade out of lemons, right? Whatever. This is from Adam Reese. Hey, APG crew. First time submitting feedback after getting your app after found you all on iTunes. I instantly caught the APG... Sorry. I'll read that over again. I instantly caught the APG syndrome. APG syndrome. APG syndrome. And he says he finds himself listening to the podcast more than I care to admit. I myself am a private pilot and I volunteer with the Civil Air Patrol flying a Gippsland or Gippsland. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it. GIPPSLAND GA8 Airvan out of Texas.
I would say Gippsland.
Gippsland? That's what okay. I think that's probably the way to go with that. I know everyone knows about AirVenture, but not everyone can go this year, like myself. But there will be a lot of Civil Air Patrol members out there, mainly our cadets, working the flight line and even chasing down ELTs that go off during the show. 3 of my cadets are up there this year. 2 of them are veterans of the show, and one of them is having his first experience. We call the event National Blue Beret, and members fly in from all over the country to experience and work AirVenture. I'm sure a lot of people attending the show will see them, and if you do, be sure to introduce yourself or give them a pat on the back, as they are doing all the work voluntarily and in fact pay to attend the event and for their own airfare. Our members will be wearing military-style uniforms with safety vests and blue berets with the St. Albans Cross on the front. These cadets go on to pursue careers in aviation and work hard on the program or in the program to help better themselves for the future. So some even go on to military academies to fly for our military. Just wanted to give my guys and gals a nice shout out to our aviation community and APG listeners. Anyway, thanks for reading. Look forward to the next podcast. And Adam sent this in before AirVenture. Sorry, I'm now just getting to it. There was a nice young man who introduced himself to me when we were in Boeing Plaza, or what was it called? Boeing Plaza, I think. Was wearing a blue outfit, and I think he was wearing a blue beret. I thought he was a volunteer for the EA, or maybe he was with a different outfit. I think he had a shirt on or something that said EAA radio, but maybe he was one of these cadets that I met.
I don't know. Did he have a yellow cross on a blue field?
I don't remember that much.
Well, that's just an Albans cross.
Yeah, I didn't pay that close attention to everything. I didn't want to stare at everything that he was wearing, but
After St. Alban, the first British Christian martyr.
Oh, how about that? So no, I'm assuming that this person I was talking to was probably one of these cadets. So I'm sorry, I forget your name. I think it was Kevin or something like that. Keith, Kevin, something like that. But anyway, it was nice meeting you. And Adam, thanks for sending this in. And I'm sure that many of our APG folks there at AirVenture ended up, running into some of these guys. Hope they didn't hurt them too much.
And I hope a lot of these guys are the next generation of airline pilots that we're going to see, Jeff, because that's what we need.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Poor Ross was asking advice about traveling, and then he asked for advice on chocolates and apartments.
We're a bit late with that advice, aren't we?
Yeah, I've been very, very bad with answering these in a timely manner. But he says, "Hi, Team APG. Thanks for reading this feedback on the show recently. I thought I would follow up and let you know how it turned out. So to answer one of your questions on the show, I booked the tickets through one of the many online ticketing agents out there. It wasn't with the airline directly, although I haven't booked with an airline directly for many years now and had never come across this reservation fee requirement for adjacent seats on anything other than a budget airline. So shortly after sending you the feedback below, I was also told by an acquaintance that in his recent experience traveling with children, the airlines were very supportive of families sitting together on long-haul flights. So as very few seats seemed to be reserved when I looked on the Acme Red website, I thought I would head to the airport early and see whether they could seat us together. That seemed to be a good decision, as there seemed to be absolutely no question of us being split up when speaking to the check-in agents. They were very friendly and immediately identified seats for us together without me even asking. On the return journey, the same thing happened. And as the plane was quiet, they gave us a whole row so that my daughter could sleep. All in all, I avoided quite a large reservation fee and was able to spend that money on a nice evening meal for our family. One thing I thought worth mentioning that I learned in this process is that families traveling with children can also take car seats with them at no extra cost, and also not at the expense of other luggage, something which can save some money over a long-term car rental. Thanks for picking this up on the show. The suggestions and feedback were very helpful. Again, that's Ross in England, and kudos to Acme Red. Apparently, they did a smashing bang-up job there with Ross and his family and their travel.
I will make sure I let Acme Red know. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't have expected anything less.
You obviously haven't been to one of the parties I go to, Jeff, whether you say, "What do you do?" And you say, "Oh, I'm an airline." "Where do you fly for?" Acme Red. And the first thing you get is a horror story.
Oh, boy.
That's always that. Everyone's got one horror story they
Don't
want
you
to
just
tell
love
you.
that? That's one of my pet peeves. People, they find out you fly for brand X. Then all of a sudden, here goes all the terrible experiences they had with it. And I'm thinking to myself, did I have anything to do with that?
That's
No.
right. Did I come to this party to listen to you to whinge?
And it's like, my next door neighbor, he worked for IBM, and they've moved away since, but that's like me going over there and going, I have one of your stupid PCs, and that just start complaining about, and knowing full well that he has nothing to do with personal computers. He works for some other division at IBM, but even if he did work for the PC division, it's like, he's not responsible for that problem. What's wrong with these people?
I don't know.
Oh, well. So speaking of Ross in England, he also sent in something that he thought we would get a kick out of. And it's a video. We're just going to listen to the audio portion of it. And but it was, I thought it was worth playing for everyone, as Ross did as well. So let's take a listen.
This is your captain speaking. We're going to skip all the pre-flight checks and proceed with takeoff. I've given the tyres a kick, and I think we've got enough fuel to get there. And the oil warning light hasn't come on yet, so buckle up and enjoy the flight.
We're going.
Everybody's getting out the airport.
The proper checks. So why drive without them? always check your tires, fuel, and oil.
Good advice. So I guess this is from Highways England, and I guess they put out a lot of entertaining ads.
It's a nice public safety ad.
Yeah, it is.
I
And
used to get a lot of those when I was a kid, and they're very rare nowadays.
well, they cost a lot of money. I guess maybe they don't. Is it like a nonprofit or something, or is it part of the
Oh, yeah,
government?
it's a kind of a government thing.
Okay. Was it just me, or it sounded to me like Captain Al making that PA right at the beginning?
Well, could you hear it?
You're going to get his lawyers are going to send us another letter.
Oh,
Be
not
careful.
another letter from Fluff.
But listen to this at the very beginning.
This is your captain speaking. We're gonna skip all the pre-flight checks and proceed with takeoff.
That sounds
It
to
is,
me
you
so
know,
much
it is.
like his accent.
Absolutely. Him or his brother.
Oh boy, it figures.
Captain Al's been moonlighting again.
Okay. So that was funny. Thank you, Ross, for sending that in, giving us a tickle. Jonathan writes, "Hi, Captain Jeff. I submitted feedback with a question before on web page and received no answer before, so I figured I would give it a try here." I don't know why. If you had used the feedback form on the website, we should have received your feedback, Jonathan, but I don't remember ever getting it. So if you like, leave a comment or something like that on a post, then yeah, I'm never going to see that. So you found the best way to get our attention. Send it to feedback@airlinepilotguy.com or use one of the smartphone apps, and then it goes directly into our feedback folder on my Evernote program. Okay, so I've started listening to your show recently and have gotten to episode 40, so I'm still living in your past. So I apologize if this has been answered before. I've had the desire to learn to fly my whole life, but after failing previous attempts or precious attempts, maybe previous, I thought this time I would be able to for sure. I did all the research for what was needed and finally decided on ATP school in Tampa, St. Petersburg Airport for my education. I'm 36 years old now, and although not too late to start, my window is closing for my dream of being an airline pilot. Then, after all the research was done, I tried to get the financing and hit a brick wall again, despite having excellent credit, over 800 credit score, never having any late payments, having lots of credit history, and having a general manager job at Domino's Pizza for over 16 years. I got denied. They said I needed a cosigner. So I've submitted 4 cosigners that were also denied also. None of them have the quality of credit that I do or income that I do, but I tried everyone that I could think of. Although the program says it guarantees an instructor job, and I'm aware that it's not guaranteed, I still have a strong work history to fall back on to be able to get rehired to pay the debt. After getting the hours flight instructing, the regionals have a, commas will be helpful here. After getting the hours flight instructing, the regionals have a tuition reimbursement assistance program for the duration of flight instructor job and a full year after you get your 1,500 hours to make sure you will be able to pay the debt. Any advice would be greatly appreciated, or information on how I could get the loan with my situation, because I believed my own benefits should have been enough to get the loan approved on my own. I am and always have been a very hard worker. I'm not scared of the amount of work I would have to put into achieving this dream. Whether I am able to get any information from you or anyone on your great link of helpful individuals on your network, I would like you to know that your show is a great tool and your insight is always appreciated on my long drives to and from work daily. I will continue to listen through the vast amount of episodes you've put together. Thank you for your time. And again, that's Jonathan Drucker. So I have no idea, Captain Nick, why somebody that has a really, really strong credit rating had trouble being approved for a loan. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Neither do I, because that's the benchmark that people use to judge whether they're going to let you have money. And if you've got a good credit rating, I don't understand it. I wonder whether you had tried a different bank. I'm not very familiar with the American finance system, quite honestly, and I don't know whether there's an equivalent of a student loan, which is something you get in the UK, that is available either. A government funded loan, I don't know. Is there something similar to that in the States, Jeff?
We do have student loans and government-backed funding, but I'm not sure if an aviation school and like going to one like ATP would qualify for that kind of loan. But maybe, I don't know for sure. I'm sure a lot of people out there listening know the answer to this, and if you do, if you don't mind, send us some feedback and maybe help us point Jonathan in the right direction. Also, Jonathan, if you're listening, you can check out Carl Valeri's Aviation Careers podcast. And I think his website has a lot of information about scholarships and perhaps some sources or resources for, funding your training and that kind of thing. I would imagine that he would be a really good person to ask about this. But as far as the financial stuff and why you weren't approved, I have no idea. I mean, to me, just on the face of it, it looks like you have everything necessary with your good credit and, good income to support a big loan. But I don't know.
We've got plenty of listeners from all sorts of backgrounds. And whilst I don't know much about the American system, one of those will. And I'm trusting that they will come to the aid of a fellow APG listener and perhaps send us some feedback, offering some advice for Jonathan. That'd be great. Really appreciated.
It certainly would. Several people have mentioned suffering. Jennifer is one of those who it sounded like she was at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting when she said that she suffered from APG syndrome. And we heard from others that suffer from this malady as well. Well, you know what? Good news. Why is this not playing? Oh, I know why.
Why, hello there. My name is Miami Hick, and I'm here to talk to you today about an embarrassing subject that no one likes to talk about, APG syndrome. Do you have a constant pain in your neck from always looking up at airplanes? Have you tried to grow your own Captain Jeff mustache? Do you think of Miami Rick every time you hear a cricket? Think of Captain Nick when you hear a frog croak. Think of Dana whenever you eat Boston baked beans. Do you think of Dr. Steph whenever you get stuck with a needle? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you are suffering from APG syndrome. Well, suffer no more. Introducing Go Around Acillin. With only 36 daily doses of an easy-to-swallow pill, you can be free of your symptoms with Go Around Acillin. Talk to your doctor today and find out if Go Around Acillin is right for you. Like all medicine, Go Around Acillin has side effects which include headache, nausea, vomiting, stomach bleeding, bleeding from the ears, nose, and eyes, uncontrolled diarrhea, stomach cramps, yellowing of the teeth, hair, and toenails, warts, hair loss, dry mouth, constipation, and stomach cramps.
Very, very good.
Another classic.
Go Around Acillin.
Oh, excellent.
And of course, every time you think of Go Around, we think of this little ditty here.
You can always go around.
Acillin.
If it don't look right,
Coming down
don't wait until
your socks.
baby sliding on the ground.
You can always go around. So very, very, we're going to have to keep that that commercial in here for future episodes or what's the
It'd be
word?
nice to tag it on the end because he's getting quite a little session of Miami Hick at the end of the APG podcast. So I enjoy listening to that.
Yeah, very well done. Thank you, Miami Hick, for sending that in. So yeah, there is hope. We now have a cure. Go Around Acillin.
Yeah, those side effects sound just a little bit worrying. You might want to think twice.
from eyes, nose, and ears.
Yeah,
uncontrolled
absolutely. Yeah,
teeth falling out, diarrhea, stomach cramps.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
it might be better just to stick with the syndrome. Personally,
yeah, I think so. Okay, you know what? I think now would be a great time for this week's installment of the old pilot's plain tales, the tongue twister.
The old pilot's plain tales, the number 9 combustor. For airline passengers and crew alike, a fire in the cabin must be amongst the most terrifying of incidents. Over the decades, the industry has improved passenger protection and crew training, but there is only so much that can be done. In August 1985, there was a milestone accident that was to be a defining moment in the history of civil aviation. It involved a Boeing 737-200 series operated by British Air Tours, which was departing Manchester International Airport in the UK, bound for the Greek islands. Captain Peter Terrington and First Officer Brian Love, both experienced pilots, lined up their aircraft on runway 24 for takeoff. Behind them in the cabin were 4 cabin crew and 131 passengers, all keen to start their holiday flight. Unknown to the pilots 5 years previously, the number 9 combustor can in their left-hand Pratt & Whitney JT8D had suffered cracks. The ring of cans contain the burning fuel as it is fired to create the heat and pressure required to power the engine. The cracks had been repaired by fusion welding, but had not received the required solution heat treatment. The Air Accident Investigation Board were unable to confirm if this had been a major factor in the can's failure, but as the pilots applied power and started to accelerate down the runway, this was the can that was about to blow. At around 120 knots, a loud thump was heard coming from under the aircraft, and thinking a tire might have burst, the captain shouted, "Stop," ordering the takeoff to be abandoned. First Officer Love applied hard braking, which was moderated after Captain Terrington expressed his concern about a damaged tire. 9 seconds after aborting, the cockpit fire warning sounded, and the tower confirmed that,
Air Tours, there is a lot of fire.
About 20 seconds before the aircraft stopped, the tower controller also suggested evacuating the passengers on the starboard side. Hearing the bang and seeing the smoke, the fire service had already initiated a response. As the aircraft slowed, it came abeam a short taxiway, Link Delta, and the pilots turned off the runway, coming to a halt facing northwest. The wind was 250 at 7 knots. When the number 9 combustor had ruptured, a section of the can was ejected forcibly into an underwing tank access panel, which fractured, allowing fuel to spill into the hot engine gases and spray forwards as the reversers were deployed. The fuel ignited into a catastrophic fire, which trailed after the slowing aircraft and pulled around the left side after it came to a halt. When the crew turned off the runway, they inadvertently orientated the aircraft such that the wind would blow the fire onto the side of the fuselage. Even before the aircraft came to a halt, the captain ordered an evacuation from the right side of the aircraft over the PA system. After completing their evacuation drills and seeing flames on the captain's side of the aircraft, the pilots both escaped the aircraft through the co-pilot's sliding window. In the after part of the cabin, the fire was intense, and the flames were cracking and melting the windows, which, combined with the radiant heat coming through the fuselage, caused the passengers on the left side to stand and move into the aisle. On opening the forward right-hand R1 door, it jammed on the slide container lid. So after establishing that the left side was also a safe evacuation area, the purser opened the front left L1 door and began evacuating once a number of passengers who had become jammed in the galley area had been physically pulled free. 1 minute and 10 seconds after the aircraft came to a halt, the purser freed the R1 door and evacuation began through that door as well. Beside the right over wing exit was a young lady who, after the encouragement of the other passengers, began trying to open her emergency hatch by pulling on her armrest, which was attached to it. The passenger beside her activated the handle marked emergency pull, whereupon the 48-pound hatch fell into the lady's lap, trapping her. With assistance, the hatch was moved, and 45 seconds after stopping, the passengers began to use that exit as well. At the rear of the aircraft, the R2 right aft door was opened by the crew member even before the aircraft came to a halt. The crew member was seen in the doorway, but the slide and door were obscured by thick black smoke. Nobody escaped through this door, and the 2 crew members in that area both died. In total, 17 passengers escaped through the front L1 door, 34 through the front R1 door, and 24 through the right overwing exit. Having self-initiated a deployment, the Airfield Fire Service arrived as the L1 door opened and the evacuation started. The first unit concentrated on keeping the escape routes free of fire, whilst the second attacked the source. A third unit, which had been in the paint shop, arrived a few minutes later. The driver saw a hand waving in the right overwing exit, so he climbed onto the wing and pulled a boy clear of the body of a man trapped in the exit. The boy was the last evacuee to survive the accident. Engine failures and fires are hardly unknown in aviation, and this one was unremarkable. The fact that it occurred during the takeoff run and that the takeoff was promptly stopped was also unremarkable. Fire that developed was inevitable, considering the damage that was done to the fuel tanks, and the evacuation was initiated very promptly, even before the aircraft had come to a complete halt. The fire tenders arrived as the first doors opened, and the passengers were escaping within seconds of the exits being available. However, less than 60% of the passengers escaped with their lives. What had gone wrong? As the air accident report stated, there were many factors in the accident that should have resulted in a favorable outcome. The cabin was intact, the aircraft remained mobile and controllable, and no one was injured during the abandoned takeoff. The volume of fuel carried, although capable of producing a serious fire, was relatively small when compared with a typical amount, and the accident occurred at a well-equipped major airport, with the fire services in attendance within 30 seconds of the aircraft stopping. However, 55 lives were lost. The initial failure within the left engine was obviously the primary cause of the accident, but it was only by chance that the debris ejected struck a fuel tank access panel. Had the number 9 combustor can hit the underside of the wing, the chances are it would have been deflected, but the access panel was considerably weaker than the main underwing structure, and as a result, it was vulnerable. Once the wing tank was ruptured, the ignition of the leaking fuel was inevitable. The rejected takeoff was also conducted in accordance with the company's recommendations, and the crew's assessment of the tire damage was understandable. However, once the fire warnings illuminated, they should probably have modified their actions. By turning his aircraft onto the taxiway, the captain placed it downwind of the rapidly developing conflagration, which worsened the situation. However, this was supported by his flying manual, which advised taxiing clear of the runway if conditions permitted, but it also suggested that, for a fire, consideration should be given to turning into wind before stopping. The board acknowledged that the situation the crew was dealing with was developing very rapidly, and furthermore, the wind had earlier been light and variable. They considered that there was no doubt that the crew and the aviation community at large were quite unaware of the critical influence of light winds on a developing fire. The investigation concluded that it was vital for operators and ATC services to understand that all abandoned takeoffs and emergency landings should end with a full stop on the runway. The 7-knot wind present had a dramatic effect on the accident, and subsequent investigations revealed that even a 2-knot wind would have been significant, particularly during the fire's development. Not only did the wind drift the heat and flames directly onto the side of the fuselage, but the presence or absence of flames directly affected the perception of which doors were safe to use. A door furthest up the fuselage and away from the fire seemed to be the safest option. However, with the wind blowing as it did that day, the R1 door was in a low-pressure area created in the lee of the fuselage, and as soon as the fire breached the aircraft's skin and windows at the rear of the aircraft, the draft created drove the fire the length of the cabin, greatly reducing the chance of survival. As the aircraft slowed towards a halt, the captain made the PA evacuate on the starboard side, please. The call, however, was not heard properly due to a design anomaly. With the engine shut down, the PA volume was reduced to half, since it was otherwise too loud on a quiet aircraft. The cue for this volume reduction came from the left engine, which, since it had failed, returned the PA to a low setting. As a result, the purser had to confirm with the captain what had been said before he was able to repeat an evacuation announcement himself. The investigation was able to establish that only a few of the 55 deaths were due to the fire itself. The vast majority were due to the toxic nature of the smoke that the burning cabin furniture was creating. It was described by those who escaped ahead of it as a thick, black, impenetrable wall of choking and irritating smoke that blinded them and made them gasp for air. Even a short exposure caused their eyes to appear frosted over, with the acidic gases literally burning their throats. Of the 54 occupants who died on the aircraft, 80% had cyanide levels that would have led to incapacitation, and in half of those, the levels were fatal. In addition, 74% also had carbon monoxide levels high enough to render them unconscious, and again, half of those levels were above a fatal dose. Only 6 passengers had died from direct thermal assault. The poisonous fumes that invaded the cabin were by far the most dangerous aspect of the fire. Finding the escape lights almost impossible to see, as more and more became incapacitated, the aisle became blocked with immobile bodies. Nearly half of those who escaped from the overwing exit did so by folding down and climbing over seat backs, in some cases unwittingly trapping other passengers. It was clear that less than half of those who had been engulfed by the smoke survived, and some of those only through the heroic efforts made to pull them clear. Some others collapsed, but came round again just sufficient to finally escape. The cabin materials used aboard the 737 came under examination, and the toxic gases that they released when burned revealed a horrifying list of deadly and incapacitating chemicals: hydrogen cyanide, nitrogen dioxide, hydrogen fluoride, hydrogen chloride, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, acrolein, benzene, toluene, styrene. The list went on. The board went to great lengths to examine the survivability of the accident, noting that a significant number of the dead did not suffer fatal burns. There were also areas of the aircraft where the seats survived the fire, and many of the plastic safety cards and magazines were unburned. This was in sharp contrast to the FAA's belief that a flashover would occur within 2 minutes of fire penetration into the cabin, with unsurvivable temperatures reaching 1,000 degrees centigrade, resulting in a critical reduction in oxygen levels. Although this can and has occurred in real life, there were too many variables to safely predict it as a likelihood. The aftermath of the accident resulted in truly mammoth efforts to discover exactly why there had been such a large loss of life and what might be done in the future to prevent a reoccurrence. Pilot procedures were examined and changed to ensure that the best actions were being promoted. The cabin crew received praise for assisting for as long as they did, as they only retreated from the aircraft when they were in real danger of succumbing to the fire. The firefighting tactics used were examined, and where lacking, they were improved, although the bravery of the firefighters themselves was never questioned. When they gained access to the cabin area some 7 minutes after the fire started, an explosion blew one of them straight out of a door, and since the collapse of the fuselage was imminent, they were forced to retreat. The choke points within the cabin that delayed the evacuation were also highlighted. Cabins required a demonstration of a full evacuation within 90 seconds with half the exits unavailable, but this did not include the case where the cabin layout restricted flow, as in the Air Tour 737, or when only forward exits were available. A great deal of work was done looking at cabin sprinkler systems that could beat down toxic fumes, flames, and heat, but the volume of water required was considerable even for a short time. One of the most controversial then, and still now, was the suggestion that smoke hoods should be provided. It was generally considered preferable for passengers to evacuate and get away from the danger as soon as possible without the complication and delay involved with the donning of unfamiliar equipment. Over the years, the provision of fire retardant covers and treatments to materials in the cabin has improved, but there is still considerable work required both in the material and the forms of testing. So, after all this time, there are still unanswerable questions on what is the best way to survive such an emergency. The best solution is undoubtedly a prompt evacuation, which requires alert passengers that are sensibly dressed, have listened to the emergency brief, and prepared themselves properly. Now, where was my nearest escape exit? And may I have another glass of champagne, please?
Yeah, figures.
Yeah, well, if you're
That
going to
should have been the
go
first
happy.
question.
Now that was a very interesting incident. I thought, Jeff, it created more questions. I think at the time than the industry were capable of answering.
Yeah, a lot of big questions there, and just flat out unbelievable things like making the seats out of materials that, when burned, would create toxic gases. I mean, as many people in the chat room said, what were they thinking?
Well, that's true. But having said that, there are a huge amount of materials that are in our homes and in our cars and still in aircraft that when they get to a sufficiently high temperature, they will release toxic gases. It's almost inevitable. And they can try and protect the materials that do that. But eventually they're going to start poisoning you. And the only real answer is to get away from that environment as quickly as possible. The smoke hood thing has always been a bit of a controversial subject. I quite like, when I read the report, I quite like the idea of having water sprinklers. But of course, the practicality, just for the 2 minutes of an evacuation, I think you had to carry 40 or even 80 gallons of water just for the sprinkler system. But having said that, there's often some potable water left on board.
Okay.
Perhaps it could be
potable.
Oh, they're potable. Oh, potable. No, not potable. Oh,
Potable.
Potable. Are you sure you got that right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
That's left, and perhaps that could be connected. Certainly for an evacuation on takeoff, that would be possibly feasible. Another suggestion was that you could have an external port that the fire services could plug into to power it, so you wouldn't have to carry any water in the aircraft. A fire engine could come at the back of the aircraft, plug in, and just flood the inside of the cabin with misting water, which would knock down the heat, all the fumes, the heavy fumes, and all the heavy smoke. And so that's possibly doable. But no, all the suggestions that were made, and I look in our current industry, the only ones that were really taken up were keeping the aisles wide and clear. I mean, the biggest problem in this particular aircraft was they had a double bulkhead at the front that restricted access at the front of the cabin to the doors to a width of 20 inches. Now, if you try, my hips are probably 20 inches wide.
No, they're not.
Well, all right then. I'm trying to think how. I've got a chest of around 48 inches, so I'm just trying. You try and work it out.
Yeah.
You certainly can't get two people through it, and it was quite easy for people to get jammed. In fact, that's exactly what happened. A whole bunch of people had got jammed, and they were being pushed from behind, and they couldn't free themselves. And if the cabin crew hadn't actually jerked people free, pulled them physically out of the log jam, no one would have got out of the front exits. So the trials afterwards looked very carefully at how people might evacuate when they're in more of a panic, and they simply did that by offering them a monetary prize for the first people out. So people were doing anything to get out of the airplane first, to get their hands on the money, and they had told them not to try and be an orderly evacuation, to do anything they could to get out, and that was much more realistic. That was the first thing, one of the things they did, and the other was they then said, right, the minimum distance you can have on an aisle for an evacuation is 30 inches. I don't know whether that's adhered to in the industry, but that's what they said was required on this aircraft, and it was 10 inches too narrow.
So a lot of good discussion going on in the live chat room regarding this, and the fact that which kind of raised a question for me. I know the airplane that I fly was, I'm not sure what it was certificated as far as the maximum quantity of passengers, but I do know that for the longest time we were flying around with let's say the MD-90. I think we were flying around with 149 seats, or 142, something like that. And then they 149. That's right. And that's like up to 160 now. They added, a couple extra rows of seats, and so I think we added like 7. I don't remember the exact numbers now, but several seats in both the 88 and the 90. And I'm thinking, so why wouldn't they have to go and get the whole thing recertified for the extra passengers? It seems to me there must be some kind of an exemption or some kind of process they must go through. I'm sure my airline did that. I mean, they just wouldn't add extra seats if they weren't allowed to. But it kind of begs the question, so what happens when you certify an airplane for a certain number of seats? The airline comes up with some kind of new seating system which allows them to put more seats in the airplane. Is that kosher? Is that allowed? I guess must have to go through some kind of a regulatory assessment and process for approval, I would imagine.
Yeah, there were a number of incidents I could have picked on to bring up this particular subject of evacuations. There was a 3-holer, I think, that where the guy got way high on the glide slope, came down and left it basically to the flare to try and check his rate of descent, and he didn't spool the engines up in time, and he basically ran out of airspeed trying to slow his rate of descent before he even got to the runway, and they impacted short. The fuselage more or less survived, and there was, of course, the Saudi aircraft that turned back with the cargo fire that landed back, and because they really didn't treat the situation with enough urgency, by the time they got to the end of the runway, they were basically, everyone on board was going to die because they never shut the engines down. They never got to that point. And the firemen couldn't get on board to do anything because the aircraft was still sitting there with the engines running on the pressurized.
Yeah.
So there are a number, but the one that I thought was incredible about this was that it never even got airborne. All it did was stop the takeoff. And as the Board of Inquiry said, this was should have been an incredibly survivable accident. And everything went right. The fire engines, for heaven's sake, were there in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as good as it gets.
I'm amazed that they got there that fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, they eventually got 3 exits open. So you know, that's supposed to be it for certification. But the certification never had the situation where the exits were only at one end. They always had one exit at either end. They never certify the aircraft with all the exits at the front or all the exits at the back. So that was an added problem. So that was an interesting one, and the industry learned a lot from it. Whether it has been a big enough learning curve for them, whether they've got to the top of that learning curve, I really don't know. Because one thing I don't know about my interest in my industry now is, are the modern aircraft, how well are they fire protected? How well have they changed the materials? What has actually changed? Because that's an incredibly difficult thing to research. You can find out after an accident because there's a beautifully presented Board of Inquiry document for you to read to find out. But trying to dig in and find the documents to say, how do they test fire retardant seats nowadays? It's really tough.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you know, just hearing the retelling of this incident and accident, I guess, made me really think about, you know, the fact that you really do have to think about, as a pilot, when you're aborting or you're landing in a situation where you're coming to a stop, you know, which way that wind's blowing, and make sure that if you know you have a fire, you know, position the airplane, you know, appropriately so that you're kind of facing upwind so that the fire is going the other direction.
Going the other direction, or you're released into wind. We used to do the same, Jeff. When I joined Acme Red, the advice was when you got just about at the end of your abort, you swung the airplane and pointed it into wind. We don't do that anymore. And the reason we don't do that anymore is that the fire services for a big aircraft say, the last thing we want to do when we try and come up to a 747 or a big A340 is have to drive on the grass to access parts of the aircraft, because the grass may be swampy. We may not get these huge fire tenders they have on soft ground to the places they need. So they say, no, what we want you to do is to stop straight ahead and let us deal with the fire, because we have the equipment to deal with it, and we will beat the fire down. So you just stop straight ahead so that we can use the sides of the runway to access all around the aircraft. So that's the guidance we stick to nowadays.
That makes a lot of sense, because, you know, the chances are with the fire equipment there, if they have access to the airplane, you have a much better chance of success than you would if you had it off to the side and they had to get onto the grass or whatever.
Yeah. Because there's some airports I go to where I wouldn't necessarily have that confidence in the fire services, in which case I probably would take a turn if it was sensible.
Yeah. Well, you know, in the future, when all these things are being flown by automation, I'm sure that it'll know exactly what to do.
Exactly. A little wind vane at the top of
the All right. Well, great. That was another excellent installment.
I think so. I've already done the next one. Looking forward to hearing that one. That's an interesting one as well.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, it concerns pilot seats.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
You think so?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, you will.
Not to come back for more if you're listening to this episode. Let's see. We've done this one, done that one. Here's an interesting one. Liz sent this in, Liz Piper. This is from adn.com. I think that's a local media outlet. Alaska Dispatch News. There we go. Jet about to land hits caribou at Dead Horse Airport.
They have to rename the airport.
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm sorry.
So,
I spoiled your joke.
Absolutely. That's the wrong name for the airport. A plane trying to land at Dead Horse Airport on Alaska's North Slope hit and killed a caribou with its landing gear on Friday. The shared
pretty big, aren't they?
Yeah, they're huge.
Okay.
The shared services Boeing 737, operated by ConocoPhillips and jointly owned with BP, aborted its landing around 11:05 a.m. at the airport after the flight crew saw a caribou on the runway. During the abort procedure, the caribou was struck by the landing gear and perished. The pilot saw the caribou prior to landing and initiated a go-around, but not in time to avoid contact with the caribou. After the plane hit the animal, let's see, I'm sorry, I have to pause for a minute. I got to get something ready here.
I didn't know you had a caribou dying sound.
Yeah, I got everything.
Woo!
Okay. After the plane hit the animal, the flight crew conducted a subsequent low pass over the airport so maintenance personnel on the ground could make a preliminary damage assessment prior to landing. The plane then landed at the Dead Horse Airport without further incident, she said. No damage to the plane was identified, and it is back in service. Dead Horse Airport operations workers removed the caribou carcass and conducted a runway inspection. No passengers, flight crew, or ground crew were injured, she said. Scott Austin, foreman at the Dead Horse Airport, said the caribou ran out into the runway as the plane was on its final approach and was decapitated by the aircraft.
Don't lose your head.
Last week, a herd of about 4,000 caribou passed through and ended up on parts of the runway. It took airport workers nearly half an hour to herd them all off, he said, and this was likely a straggler. You get stragglers all the time, he said. Once they start coming through, migrating, we'll have them for weeks. Anyway, sad for the caribou. Beautiful animal, but a good outcome for the 737. Apparently no damage.
And for the airport workers, they had caribou steaks all week.
That is true as well. I would imagine that caribou would be good eating. I don't know.
Well, I guess someone said it's reindeer. I remember having a reindeer steak once. So yeah, I think it was called Zuma or something.
Zuma. Okay.
I don't know, Zuma or Dancer. Dancer, that was it. We ate Dancer.
Oh, Prancer and Blitzen.
Yeah, one of those, I think.
Okay. Oh, poor reindeer. What is Santa going to do?
Well, he'll use 6 white boomers, as the Australians always used to think. 6 white kangaroos. That's another name for a kangaroo is a boomer.
I never heard of that. Okay, interesting.
We're not allowed to sing the song anymore because the singer is persona non grata now.
Really?
Called Rolf Harris.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. All the Aussies will know about it.
The song about the kangaroos.
Yeah, the 6 white boomers.
Okay.
I don't suppose it gets sung very much now.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do our own research to figure out why. Let's see. Kevsky writes in from Norway. Kevin from Norway. He calls himself Kevsky. Just found your conversation with Joe on Chicago Center. Remember, I talked about going into Madison last week, and I was trying to find the audio from Live ATC. And he says, in case you haven't found it yourself yet, here it is. Unfortunately, you can only hear Joe and not you. But if you play it on the show, you can always fill in the blanks live.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Can't wait.
He goes, warning, I did not edit out the call sign. Uh-oh. Okay, so I'll have to do that in post, apparently. So here we go. Did I write this? I mean, no, shoot. Okay, hang on. Let me do something here. So we're
While you're doing that, I'm just going to tell a 737 in your head will usually be a quick, painless death.
Yeah, I'm sure of it.
Delta 782 is Captain Jeff on there?
Who's asking?
How about that? Go APG.
Yeah, go APG. Who's this?
Yeah, that's right. I just listened to one of your shows on the way in.
Really? It sucks, doesn't it?
My name is Joe.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, nice to meet you in person.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I was just listening to your feedback show. That's I'm a little behind.
I wish I had a little behind.
But I enjoy it. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for enjoying it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, listen, I heard you were coming in here, and so glad to be able to chat with you.
Well, I'm glad I had a chance to chat with you as well.
Enjoy your time in Oshkosh tomorrow.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, good. Good to hear.
I don't remember what I said.
Delta 782, sometime on the show, mention the difference between the MD-80s, the 82s, the 88s, and the 90s, if you could, and the 717. I'd be interested to know what all the differences are.
Basically numbers.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah.
It was funny, wasn't it?
At Delta 782, contact Chicago Center or make that Madison approach on 120.1. You have a nice night and have fun tomorrow.
Well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Very,
I don't remember what I said.
very good, Jeff. There was a lot of long pauses there.
Yeah. Well, it takes some time for the signal to get from the airplane to the ground.
Well, it's that long piece of string you have on the Mad Dog, isn't it?
So that's really strange how it picked up everything he was saying, but none of what I was saying.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, he could have been, he could have had a few frequencies ganged, and it might have been picking up one of the frequencies that you weren't on.
Good point. Good point. That's probably very likely what happened there.
For those who may not realize, some controllers work several frequencies. So the aircraft could be on one frequency, but he's broadcasting on three. So if ATC Live picked up one of the frequencies that Jeff wasn't on, it'd still get the controller, but not Jeff.
And it's very frustrating for us as pilots because, we can't tell when other people are talking on other frequencies. So a lot of times, you'll be talking and then he's like, well, stand by, we're going, well, I'm sorry, we can't hear another frequency. We don't know if somebody's talking or not,
Yeah, very true.
Anyway. Okay. So the differences between all these different airplanes, basically they're all versions of the venerable DC-9, DC-9 -10, -20, well, I'm not sure if there was a 20, but -30, -50. And then actually the MD-80 series was the DC-9-80. And then at that point, McDonnell and Douglas Corporation were merged together, and they decided that they would go to a new naming scheme and call these newer generation versions of the DC-9 the MD series for McDonnell Douglas Corporation. And so the 80s started out, and they're essentially all pretty much the same as you get higher in numbers, like the 82, 83, 85, 87, 88. They are all newer generations, and they tend to get more advanced avionics, as like, for instance, if you see an old MD-80, the avionics that were installed were all the old steam gauges. Now, a lot of the instrumentation on the airplane that I fly are it's kind of a mixture of the old style and the newer style displays, and also differences in the thrust of the engines. When you make the jump from the 80 series to the 90 series, then you go from lower bypass turbofans to a high bypass fan, a different manufacturer. The Pratt & Whitney engines on the 80 series, and the International Aero Engines V2500 series high bypass fans on the 90. And then the Boeing 717 was really the MD-95, but then somewhere in there in the 90s, I guess, Boeing bought McDonnell Douglas Corporation and slapped the Boeing nameplate on the MD-95 and called it a Boeing 717. It gets really complicated, but that airplane's actually smaller than the 80 series and 90 series. Siri thinks that I'm asking her a question. Hey, Siri, is at 90 series?
Shows.
I don't want it.
Game of Thrones.
I don't want.
And Rick and Morty.
I don't want.
Shall I read the rest?
No. Stop. Okay, sorry. I don't know why Siri. I must have said something that got Siri's attention. Anyway, the Boeing 717 is actually a smaller, lower capacity version of the MD series, and has an engine, I think, manufactured by a consortium, Rolls-Royce, BMW, and maybe a few other engine manufacturers. And the displays in the cockpit are the new generation kind of all-in-one kind of displays, the kind of thing you'd see on your Garmin 1000, although probably not as nice as the Garmin stuff. But anyway, so that's essentially the differences between all the different numbers and models in the series. I know there's a lot more to it than that. I'm just trying to make it short and sweet, but I'm sure that Wikipedia would do a good job of, or some good websites out there on the McDonnell Douglas, the Mad Dogs out there to get all the nitty gritty details on the differences. And I'm sure that Captain Nick, you probably have nothing to add to that.
I could do a whole plain tale about those different series by the sounds of it.
Please don't.
Don't worry, I won't inflict it on you.
Thank you. Or anybody else for that matter. Let's see how we doing here in time. I think we're still okay. So we're past the 2.5 hour point. We're going to go a little bit more here, and then we'll call it quits.
To be fair, we haven't got that much more.
No, we don't, which is a good thing. Don from White, he calls himself the White Mountain Wingnut. Hello, APG crew, community, and those who are being forced to listen to this while riding in the car with someone infected with the syndrome.
Woohoo.
Like that. I absolutely love the show, and I've only just started listening. I'm a service technician for a packaging company and travel all over the country servicing and repairing packaging equipment for food and medical companies. Most of my travel is by car, with the occasional flight. My drives have become more enjoyable since I've started listening. It almost feels like a road trip with AV geeks, or as I call them, wingnuts, whenever I am listening to APG. I've listened to 6 shows over the last 5 days while I've been traveling. Wow. I'm really curious on how often you all come through the New England area. I'm sure Dana may come through more, assuming he lives, or at least used to live, near the Boston area, based on the Red Sox shirt I've seen him wear and the original U.S. accent. I'd love to attend a meetup and meet more wingnuts like me, especially in the New Hampshire, Maine, and Boston area. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess you didn't start listening early enough, Don. We had a meetup in Maine not too long ago with Maine man Micah and Mark, and so if we do it again, I'm hoping that you'll be able to meet up with us. Anyway, I've had a 10-year flying hiatus since I earned my private pilot license in 2007, although I've been flying the virtual skies on my home flight simulator, racking up 400 hours, and I'm ready to jump back in and do it for real again. Thank you for your continued efforts and countless hours of entertainment you've given me on my long, boring drives, and I'm happy to be part of the selected infected by the APG syndrome. Blue skies, Don, the White Mountain Wingnut. So Don must be in New Hampshire. I think that's the White Mountains. Yeah.
Sounds a nice part of the country.
It is. And Dana, yep, you're right. He is from Boston. And he's an insufferable Boston sports supporter. Red Sox, and even worse, the Patriots. Man, when it gets to be football season, watch out. If you're not a Patriot fan, you better get out of his way. But I think that Boston has banned him. Isn't there some kind of a perimeter that he's not allowed to penetrate when he's up in that area of the country?
Yeah, but I think he wears someone else's hat now to get in there.
So great to hear from you, Don. Welcome to the community. I think you'll be right at home here. And as mentioned in several places and some audio earlier in the show, that the best part of all of this is not really the show, it's the community. So,
absolutely.
Let's see. Steve writes, wow, this is a long one. Settle
Good
in.
Lord.
Get a beer or two. But it's worth it. Trust me. Let's see. Greetings, APG crew. After hundreds of episodes, 2 Atlanta meetups, and lots of wishing I'd found the time to go to Farnborough and Pittsburgh, I think the time has come for me to submit my very first APG feedback. He's been holding it inside, folks, so he's letting it out. I've started putting together audio feedback a couple of times, but let's be honest, up against the likes of Jeff's Svelte NPR-like tones, Micah's slice of life brilliance, and Nick's must be polished in book and audio format plain tales, I'd be more like Miami Hick up against Miami Rick. Well, wait a minute. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. A thought for next time. In any case, let me start with the obligatory and fully deserved thanks to Captain Jeff for creating the incredible podcast and community that APG has become. Living and working in the Atlanta metro area for the last 11 years has given me ample time to discover podcasts as being the very best means of turning my 7 to 9 hours of weekly commuting into time well spent. And my 3 hours with APG-itis every week is my favorite. By way of introduction, I'll share a little bit about myself because it may resonate with at least a few of your listeners. I'm an aviation nut trapped in the body of a telecom professional. The first time I ever flew a plane was when I was roughly 4 or 5 years old, when I started building cockpits out of Tinker Toys and fiddlesticks, complete with turning yokes and movable throttles. My imagination took me into the bluest, cumulus-accented skies I could imagine, although I have to admit that for every landing that Captain Nick would be proud of, I would have another where the yoke came apart in my hand in the flare. Fortunately, back then, imaginary passengers and their estates weren't as litigious as they are today. Fast forward a couple of years, in early elementary school, probably in the early 80s, I was on an American Airline 727 on my way from New York to Florida via some intermediate airport. There were 3 of us in my family at that time, and I was seated next to an old guy with a mustache and cowboy boots. Of course, they were all either kids or old guys back then, but the cowboy boots were new to a kid from New York. I remember he was reading Frank Herbert's Dune, and I asked him what it was about. As these things used to go in the early 80s before everyone had headphones and whatevers, it wasn't long before he had told me he was a private pilot, whatever that was, started explaining to me the various flaps in the wing and what they did. One of them made it turn, the other helped it fly slower so it could land. Well, you might not be surprised that by the time we landed, I considered myself a bona fide aviation expert and was more than ready to help when it turned out that both the pilot and co-pilot had the fish for dinner. Nice airplane reference. I could go on and on, but the summary of the next 13 or 14 years is what I collected, I collected lots of sets of American Airlines wings, fell in love with the DC-10 after a family trip from JFK to Puerto Rico, read tons of aviation books, and owned every version of Flight Simulator, starting with the venerable SubLogic Flight Simulator 2 on my Commodore 64, flown not so skillfully with an Atari joystick, while also going to school and playing soccer and all that normal kid stuff. But I was always thinking about planes and flying, but actually being a pilot because I was slightly nearsighted. Alas, either I was born 10 years too soon or LASIK 10 years too late. Oh well, net result, I never really planned on flying as being a professional career option when I was a kid. Fast forward to 1998, fresh out of school and working my first real job in the Philadelphia area, a very dear friend of mine who knew how much I wanted to fly encouraged me to take my first lesson. A gentleman I worked with recommended the Ken Marson Aero Club out of Kilo Victor Alpha Yankee, South Jersey Regional, about 45 minutes or so away from where I lived in Philly. This turned out to be a real flying club, old school, and it has been my model for flying venue perfection ever since. And to some degree, it spoiled me completely. Imagine a place outside of Class B airspace where you can find a 3,600 foot long, 50 foot wide piece of tarmac with minimal other private air traffic. Imagine you have access to something like 15 different airplanes and multiple types to suit your preference. Over the course of my training, I progressed from Cherokee 140s to Warriors to Cherokee 180s and even mixed in some Archer hours for good measure. They had 150s and 172s and I believe a 182. For the RG folks, retractable gear, there were 2 Archers, a decathlon for the fun-loving tail dragger types, twins of various sizes for those seeking multi-training, including a Navajo that was once proudly and famously served as Arnold Schwarzenegger's plane in one of those shoot-'em-up movies he used to make. Imagine cross countries to Wildwood and nary a control tower in sight, except for the mandatory minimums during training. Imagine flights up the Jersey coast, west of Manhattan, stopping in Millville mid-lesson for lunch and not having your instructor even think of charging you for the time on the ground. Here's the best part. Back in those days, I was renting a Warrior for roughly $47 per hour, wet, tack time. So it was really only a $50 hamburger. And the instructor was about $15 an hour. I don't know if there's anybody listening now who might remember retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander Ben Antrim, but he was my first CFI and the best of the bunch. He challenged me and encouraged me at the same time in a way that gave me confidence. And while in years past I've been a reasonably competent and confident pilot, at one time Ben had me feeling like I was literally wearing the airplane. And that was a great feeling. Ben, if you're still out there, know that you made a difference in at least one young kid's life. Thank you for that. Oh, back to the club and why it was so awesome. Now imagine that every time you came back from a lesson, you could go back to the clubhouse, grab a beer out of the dinged up fridge, plop down in a worn recliner with a bunch of other guys to hanger fly for a while before you drive home to ground-based reality USA. And note, I said a beer, okay? I've been looking for a place like that ever since and have never found one, not in New York, Virginia, or Georgia. If anyone knows of such a place, please let me know so I can start looking for a job near there. To abbreviate what has already gone on too long, it could become a very long story indeed. Suffice it to say that I got my ticket, suffered the vagaries of the dot-com boom, and bust. Let me try that again. Of the dot-com boom and bust, and have started and stopped flying a couple of times throughout the years since, and likely will do so again. But what will never change is my undying love for aviation and flying. And whether or not I am participating in sacred practice of airmanship directly at any given period of my life, I still feel like aviation is an integral part of who I am. Becoming a part of the APG community has opened up yet another window into a world of heavy iron and to some degree light aluminum that I have often observed and wondered about from afar. For many reasons have been discussed here. For many reasons. Okay. I think I got it here. For many reasons have been discussed here and elsewhere, the dream of flying is one that has become more difficult to achieve over time, perhaps more than anything else, certainly more than the personal enjoyment I derive from listening to APG every week. I think that the service all of you are providing to those who dream of becoming a part of any facet of the aviation community is incredibly valuable. Go ahead and blush, APG crew. You're all awesome, and you deserve the praise. Now, on to a modest proposal before I conclude. So, some of you may be aware that almost every year there is an awesome event in Washington State, not swamp of, called Aviation Geek Fest. I had the privilege of attending for the first time last year. Over the course of an evening or 2 days, over the course of an evening and 2 days, about 300 av geeks from around the world were treated to a series of incredible events, such as an evening reception and tour of the Dreamliner Center, where Boeing usually hosts airline execs who are picking out all the accoutrements associated with their new bin liners. A VIP tour, floor level, not walkway level, of the large factory that makes the 747, 777, and 787. A tour of the 737 factory. A trip to the Boeing Delivery Center, where my first 737 MAX, aka Spirit of Renton, was on the ramp, especially for us to walk around, drool over, and ask questions of the various Boeing employees stationed around the plane about why it was so much better than the A320 CEO and NEO. A day at the museum flight, a walk-around tour of the Dreamlifters that the very lucky Miami Rick may someday be flying. Special events at the Fantasy of Flight Museum, including a great dinner and talk by Boeing execs about their future. 3 priceless days spent in the company of fellow av geeks, second in sense of community only to the APG community. The proposal just recently has been announced that the 2017 Av Geek Fest will be held between September 29th and October 2nd. Tickets haven't gone on sale yet, and they can be hard to get. But I do believe that an APG community meetup at the AGF may be on or in order this year. And if any of the crew can make it, so much the better. Here's the link for anyone who might be interested. And then he has the link via airlinereporter.com. Again, that's the Aviation Geek Fest, I believe. Let's see. Well, with that said, I'll wrap this up. Thanks again to Jeff, Nick, Steph, Dana, and Rick, past and hopefully future, for all that you do week in and week out, like clockwork, and just like Acme's on-time operating schedule. And thanks to the community that gives them the inspiration and support they need to make it all happen. Keep up the great work, and I'll be looking forward to that next ATL meetup, whenever that might be. Best regards, Stephen Wisniewski. All right. Well, for your first piece of feedback, Steve, now I've met Steve. He was at the most recently that the one we had at the Ormsby's Tavern, where we did the live show. Remember that, Captain Nick?
Oh, yes. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great piece of feedback, actually. It was really nicely written.
Yes, he's a very good writer, and I'm sorry I stumbled in a few places there, but I think my tongue was getting ahead of my mouth or something. But yeah, good stuff. So I don't know. What do you think? Now, I know that Nick is probably just chomping at the bit, or champing at the bit.
I'm afraid I blanked out that sentence. What was that paragraph, actually? What was it again? Something about Boeings and bin liners and
something to do with your favorite aircraft manufacturer up in the Seattle area.
Yeah. Well, wild. What do they say? Wild something couldn't drag me there. I don't know. I just jest because I think I'd probably find it fascinating.
Yeah.
I might want
the Airbus factory as well. I think that would be fascinating.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be fair, I'm an AvGeek of all types. So I'll take an interest wherever I am. So that kind of would be good. I don't think I'll be able to get out there. But it wouldn't do my reputation any good, would it?
No, but you know what? We can kind of come up with some kind of a what do you call it? Like
a disguise?
Yeah, a disguise, and nobody will know it's you.
There you go.
Big tall guy with a white beard, and you can wear like a different hat. Nobody will notice.
Yeah. I'll put my hat on backwards or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
So Stephen Wisniewski, thank you. I always have trouble with his last name. I think I keep calling it Wisniewski, but it's Wisniewski. He spelled that out for me phonetically. So thank you very much. I mean, a lot of great stuff you had in there, and thank you for all the praise that you heaped upon the show and the community. But you know what? You're right about one thing. This community is just awesome, and I'm so glad that you're a part of it, and I'm so glad that you're also part of the Coffee Fund cadre. And this Aviation Geek Fest coming up here. I don't know. What do you think, gang? People listening? Is this something that we should do?
I think it sounds a great idea. Where exactly is it? Now, I understand it's in Washington State, but
Seattle.
I mean, there's a big place. Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle.
Okay. Well, we do a flight to Seattle now.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'd have to go in a bin liner to get there, and then I'd see bin liners.
Yeah, it might be too much of an overload for you, though.
Yeah, I know. I might have a garbage overload.
You know what?
Bin liners.
You might be in such emotional distress that you may actually attempt to jump out of the airplane while it's taxiing in.
Yeah, to get away from it. Well, it was a 737 that kid jumped out of.
I know.
I can't blame him.
Oh, anyway, so we'll start thinking about this, and we'll get some feedback from others from what they think. And I don't know when these things. I've heard that when these tickets go on sale or they release them, they get snapped up like within minutes. So I'm not sure, if we can pull this off or not. But Steve, send us some more information about this, and maybe we can come up with something.
The problem I'm going to have is that that is September, was it 29th?
Let's see, what did he say? September.
September 29th.
Yeah, September 29th and October 2nd.
October the 2nd.
That's weird. I thought he said it was 2 nights and a day. No, an evening and 2 days.
Okay.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. September 29th, 30, 1st, and 2nd. That's 4 days, right? Maybe they do 2 of these. I don't know.
Perhaps.
I'm sure people in the chat are right now.
I am on holiday in Italy I'm sorry to say. I'm missing lots. That holiday is very badly positioned, isn't it?
Yeah,
What a shame.
You blew it with Dr. Steph now,
Yep.
and also the App Geek thing. Oh, well.
Yep, I'm actually just wiping my brow with relief now.
Ooh, you got a good excuse.
Exactly right.
All right. Well,
I must admit, a few beers in Tillman's microbrewery would have been fun, but
yeah, that would be sure.
I don't think they serve beer at Seattle.
Oh, Seattle.
Well, certainly not at the factory.
Yeah, they have a lot of probably not much at the Boeing factory, but Seattle's a great town for beer.
All right, okay.
Craft brewing is a lot of roots to the craft brewing renaissance in our country, at least the first one back in the late 80s and 90s.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, I think it's going to be another long show. Sorry about that, but we did knock out quite a bit of feedback. And thanks again to everybody who took the time to send us feedback, especially the audio feedback. It was awesome, especially you, Mrs. Nev. She doesn't listen to the show, though, so I'm sure Nev will just have to kind of relay that information to her.
Yeah.
Let's see. If you want to learn more about the show, of course, always head over to our great website, airlinepilotguy.com, where you can find out more info about the crew and the community, and merchandise and YouTube stuff and audio stuff, all the places we are in the media world, including social media. Captain Nick, would you like to inform the folks listening about the social media presence?
Certainly. We're on Facebook at www.facebook.com/airlinepilotguy, and you can interact with the crew on Twitter. And our Twitter handle is at APG Crew. And I think you'll have to let Hillel out now for this Slack bit.
Hillel, you in there? Oh, hang on.
Okay.
That was Kermit the Frog.
APG listeners, please join us on our Slack team. On Slack, we share news and ideas. We suggest episode and plain tales topics. We plan meetups and events. To get into the Slack team, please send me a tweet with your preferred email address to @HI11E1, and I'll send you an invitation. That's Hillel @HI11E1, and see you in Slack.
Thanks. Anytime.
It's Kermit again. I don't know where he keeps popping up. Hey, did you hear that Kermit's voice has been sacked?
Yeah, it's a new person now doing it.
Right?
Yeah.
Apparently, he was really grumpy. He was a bit of an old curmudgeon.
Awesome. Okay, well, that about does it. Oh, we mentioned the apps a few times in the show, so you know where to get them. They're free, no ads.
They're brilliant as well. They're fantastic.
Yeah. All right, and with that, I guess it's time now for us to say, wishing you clear skies. Wait a minute. What do I say here?
I don't know. Talons Douglas.
Yeah, but why can't all of a sudden I have a block? Clear skies, unlimited. There we go. Wishing you clear skies, unlimited visibility, and talons, Douglas.
Oh, it's been a nice one, Jeff. Well done.
It's been too long.
It has. You need to write your script again so I can mess with it. Bye, everybody.
There you go. There you have it. That's what happens when you let the two old buggers do the show. What do you think? You think we should end the show? Time for my Geritol. Do they still make Geritol? I don't know if you even have that.
No, I don't even know what it is.
Yeah, it's like some kind of a concoction that they used to sell for old people. I guess it had a lot of iron in it.
Iron and alcohol, I bet.
Levels up. Here, I'm going to do a quick search, see if my internet will support.
Probably snake oil. Is that what it was?
Yeah, basically. I don't know. Maybe it really did something good. Possibly.
It's funny you should mention that. When I was in the Australian Air Force, I actually had I got very run down, and I got a viral infection as a result. And while I was waiting, the only thing you can do to fix a virus, you've got to wait for it to just your body to kill it. And the guy said, I want you to have complete rest. And he said, I'm going to give you a tonic. And that's it. I don't know if it was that, but it was this funny old tonic in a red bottle. And it had a lot of iron and alcohol in it.
I'm not sure this has alcohol in it or not, but it's but I think it does come in a red bottle. I just found their website. I guess they have a multivitamin now, but what I remember is this Geritol liquid. It's a high potency B vitamin and the iron liquid supplement.
Well, that sounds more or less like the stuff he said. It sounds a bit old-fashioned, he says, but you need to build yourself back up again. It was just a long period of hard work, and I'd fallen foul of it.
Alcohol 25% by volume. No,
there you go. Damn.
Not really.
No, not nowadays. I'm sure it was back then. And I wasn't flying while I was doing it. I was grounded. So
lots of people were drinking the Geritol.
Yeah.
Wanted to have a healthier life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing to do with the alcohol.
No.
Let's see. Why does Geritol liquid contain alcohol? This is part of the frequently asked questions.
Oh, there you go.
Geritol liquid contains a small, safe amount of alcohol for several reasons. Alcohol has a long history of safe use in liquid over-the-counter medications and serves several important purposes. First, alcohol is a solvent, keeping drug interactions from occurring within a solution so customers receive the proper dose. Second, alcohol acts as a preservative, preventing the growth of harmful bacteria. That's important. And finally, alcohol can be a part of the flavoring system, helping to make the unpleasant taste of some drug ingredients. And it can also make you want more and more Geritol.
Yeah, that's right. And make you feel a lot better while you're drinking it.
Yes. You feel like hell the next day, but
so best I have some more of that Geritol. I feel terrible. Give me some Geritol.
Oh man. That's fun. Okay. So what did you think, chat room? We do okay?
We missed Steph.
Yeah, we did.
Miss Dana.
I wonder if Steph was listening while we were doing this. I know that she had internet, at least for part of her trip. I guess probably as she got closer to her destination, she probably ran out of it.
Well.
But Dana, yep, we missed you as well. I don't know if you listened to these shows after the fact, but if you do, we missed you. And but we know you're having a great time. We saw the picture that he sent the crew of the sky
road and some sky and some trees.
Yeah, but it's a nice road.
7,500 miles he's going.
That's amazing.
I know.
That's crazy, actually.
Yeah.
He's
keeping in a tent. Do you think his back will last? I know mine wouldn't.
I don't know.
There you go.
All right. Well, anything else to say or do before we shut off the TV?
Not that I can think of. Thank you very much for the early start. Much appreciated. It's just come out to 10 o'clock and going to be my bedtime pretty soon. So I think I'll whack a whiskey down the appropriate orifice. And
which one would that?
I don't know, I've got several to choose from.
Okay.
And I'll grab a bite to eat and then hit the hay, I think.
Well, thank you again for staying up so late, but at least it wasn't as late as it normally is.
Oh, it's good. This is perfect. I mean, this was a treat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I worked out well. I got here nice and early, and it's my pleasure. I know a lot of the people that were able to watch us live today don't often get a chance because of the fact that we do it at a later time, usually. Main man, Micah, awful show as usual, so it meets your regular standards.
Yeah, well, as long as we meet our regular standards, that's all we're interested in.
That's right. Although we are upping our standards here at APG. Up yours. I can't get enough.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think if you spotted my... Oh, you deleted my messing of the intro.
Well, yeah,
it wasn't me.
That completely messed up everything. It had all the old coffee fund information in there and everything.
No, it was. All I did was change one line.
I think what happened was it just got confused, and maybe because we were both on at the same time, it didn't know which one was the right one, and then it just kind of goes, okay, forget it.
Well, I must admit, I've been getting these all day, and I don't think it was the fact we're both on. It says sync error. Because of an unexpected sync error, please check your computer's connected to the network for blah, blah, resolve this error, blah, blah. And I'm obviously connected to the network because we're speaking.
I think the Evernote servers have been going through some hiccups the last.
Yeah, I would suspect that was the problem because I checked everything to work out why.
When I was working on this yesterday, it was doing some strange stuff. Like things are grayed out. I tried to create the 283 folder as a shared folder, and that was grayed out. I couldn't make it a synchronized shared folder.
All right.
Yeah, so I had to kind of do a workaround to make this happen. And then of course I forgot to put actual feedback in the folder.
But apart from that, actually, you needn't to bother because we just cleared out the feedback folder, didn't we?
We almost did. We still have 23 in there. I did end up thinning it out a little bit anyway, because a lot of the stuff in there was about stuff that we had already covered on news and previous shows feedback.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we're getting there. We're definitely.
Well, there's only about a show's worth in there, so if no one says any feedback for the next week, we will have none left.
Yeah, then we don't have to do a show.
Yeah, we can take a week off.
No, we shouldn't say that because now they're going to go no, and they're going to send us feedback. So, just kidding. We have plenty.
Oh yeah.
But you know us, we can talk about nothing for 3 hours.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're past masters at that. So. Only send it if it's good feedback.
Yeah, we're not going to do it if it's bad feedback.
We want to hear about naked cabin crew running around the airplane and things like that.
Yeah, no,
we don't.
Well, I'm going to go get a bite to eat as well, and
good man.
Maybe a beer, and then maybe get a good night's sleep for a change.
Have fun editing. There's only a couple of spots you need to worry about.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad.
Including the word polished instead of published, but don't worry too much about that.
Where did I do that?
Oh, in the beginning of that last long letter feedback.
Oh, I stumbled a few times on that one.
Struggling.
Let's see. I just need for my personal, so I know where to look for.
He was talking about plane tales.
Oh. And he said polished, and I said published.
No, the other way around.
Other way around. Okay. Okay. I'll look for that. And but
I don't think you'll be able to fit it in.
But right now, I would love, because we're still recording, and I'd love to read it the right way, so it'll be easier for me to. It'll sound like I didn't edit it.
Oh, okay.
So let's see, where in the story? Do you remember? Was it toward the beginning or the end?
Yeah, right at the beginning. Let me just. We need to move back to that notebook. There I am. It was down here, Mr. First feedback. There we go. It was first paragraph, third line. And Nick's must to be published in books and audio format plain tales. You said much to be polished in books and audio.
Oh, that's what I meant, actually. It must be polished.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I thought that was still a compliment. Must be polished.
But I must be polished. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that makes a lot more sense when you say published.
There you go.
Okay. So after hundreds of episodes, 2 ATL meetups, and lots of wishing I'd found the time to go to Farnborough and Pittsburgh, I think the time has come for me to submit my very first APG feedback. I've started putting together audio feedback a couple of times, but let's be honest. Up against the likes of Jeff's svelte NPR-like tones, Micah's slice of life brilliance, and Nick's must be published in book and audio book format plain tales, I'd be more like Miami Hick up against Miami Rick. Well, wait a minute. Maybe that wouldn't be such a bad thing. A thought for next time. That's better, I guess.
That's very good.
At least I did the Nick's must be published in book. See, this
you just messed Micah's bit up.
Yeah. I'll put in the all the good stuff from each version.
Good fun with that.
Make it sound coherent. And Nick must be, so this must be published in book and audio book form.
It's not the easiest phrase to get out, is it?
It's all hyphenated too, so that's why I try to read it like that. Next, must be published in book and audiobook format plain tales. I'd be more like Miami Hick up against Miami Rick. Yeah. Anyway,
I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to be a pensionable and worthwhile event. Me publishing anything.
yeah, that would be a lot of work for probably not too much gain.
Yeah. But there you go. Life's like that.
But I mean, I don't know. You know, I think that maybe an audiobook might be kind of a cool thing.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say something about audio. Oh yeah. Now this mic you've got your Heil PR40.
This one here.
Yeah. So what mixer have I was talking about? Well, you were talking about that mixer that I could plug that into, because obviously it's an XLR cable in that one.
Mm-hmm. An interface.
An interface, sorry, yeah, not a mixer.
Well, I mean, you could use a mixer as well, because a mixer basically is an interface with some other controls on it.
No, I don't need to spend that much money. I don't think.
No, you need to spend a lot of money.
No, I don't. Well, I'm starting to.
Well, if you want to do the Apogee dual thing, then you'd spend a lot of money.
No, I don't think I want to do the Apogee dual thing.
Basically spent on the new mixer that I'm waiting for.
No, it was what was the name of that bit of kit you were recommending? The red one, Scarlet something.
Oh, Scarlet, yeah. It's made in the UK. It's by Focusrite.
Yeah, I can't believe I can get it cheaper. Is that about?
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
The States, and it's made in the UK. What's that about?
Maybe your taxes or something.
That's stupid, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Doesn't make sense.
Well, I think that you get it when you come to the States.
Oh, I shall. In fact, there's mics, $308 if you don't want if you get the champagne color or something.
Really?
The gold ones are like 400.
Oh, I don't. Why would you want gold?
Exactly, because you're going to put a big black muff on it anyway.
This is I guess they call this champagne. It's like sort of silver, but it kind of has a different tone to it, like almost.
Yeah, but even the silver are like $380. The champagne like over $400, and that color one is $308. So I'm going, what?
They all work the same.
Exactly. Who cares? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm try this without the. I'm afraid that I'm going to be popping my pops and plosives, but.
Well, you're not actually.
No, actually, I'm not. That's odd. I wonder why not.
Oh, I know the question I was going to ask.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I have with plain tales is breath sounds. So, is there? Do you software? You bring that out in software just by raising the threshold, or
you can use a noise gate to. But noise gates are tricky. I've been using a noise gate on today's show, but sometimes if they're not set up properly, you can actually hear the gate open and close, so it kind of makes a weird noise.
Well, I just noticed that when I wind it up to get rid of breath sounds, there's dead silence instead, and that sounds really weird. Because, like, you've got noise and everything going on while you're talking, and then it's like someone just turns the mic off for while you take a breath or between words and sentences, which didn't sound at all natural. I just wanted to reduce the volume of that, not take it out completely. So anyway, but I don't hear breath sounds from you very much on that mic.
Why you? You don't hear breath sounds from me.
Yeah, because I'm actually beginning to think you might not be breathing. You might do it on one breath, or you might just be a zombie who doesn't need to breathe anymore.
No, I make breath sounds. It was interesting that I took the YouTube audio.
Do you breathe in through those gills in the side of your neck?
I don't want to talk about it. Not while we're still online.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen probably not. There's a new series out there on TBS called People of Earth, and they're basically aliens that are living amongst us, and it's a comedy. But they have lizard people, different kinds of aliens. Anyway, it's kind of a funny show. That just reminded me when you said the gills, the lizard people. that are wearing, masks and stuff like that to cover up their
lizard faces,
reptilian skin and gills.
How about their eyes? Do they have vertical slits in their eyes?
Yes, if they're
Like
not
goats.
have their contacts in, that makes them look normal. What were we talking about? No, I took that YouTube. I had to download the movie, the video. Then I had to strip the audio out of it, and then it just sounded like crap. And then so I ran it through the normal in Adobe Audition, the digital audio workstation that I use for editing the stuff, to kind of pump it up, compress it, and make it sound a little bit fuller and sound I like. Well, what it ended up doing is that every time that you, or not so much you, but Dana and I, when we were taking our breaths in between words, it was just like big sounds, just like so I had to go through. That's why it took me forever. I had to go through, and every time I heard that breath sound, I actually had to lower. There's like a little line that you put like a little note on, and then you lower the volume, and then you bring it down until the breath sound is finished, and then you bring it back up. And so every single time one of us was talking and making that breathing sound, I had to do that volume adjustment. It just took me forever to.
Yeah. Well, that's dotting the I's and crossing the T's. So,
but you get into something, and the more you get into it, you think, oh, what the heck? I'll keep going. I'll keep working on this. And
yeah, it's only 3 hours. It's not good.
I'll multiply that. I mean, I can't tell you how many hours I worked on that last. Crap. Until we got the audio that I actually, recorded off the mixer, and then finally it sounded a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
that's why I want to make sure that it threw me off at the very beginning. I'm doing the intro script, and I see this little message from Nick: record.
Yes, I did. You slowed down a bit.
Just
checking.
What? I already told you I had everything on.
Yeah, I didn't believe you. You didn't do the check list thing properly. What was I going to say? God damn it!
I have no idea.
Yeah, I do. It's in there. It's in there somewhere. It's just slightly diverted from where it was supposed to be. Oh God.
Oh, I mean, we can talk off the air about all this stuff if you want, because I always love talking about audio stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
But yeah, the Scarlett USB Scarlett interface. I've not used it myself, but I've heard a lot of people say it's really good stuff.
Okay, I mean, it obviously doesn't just channel the audio. It obviously tweaks it a little bit or adds something to it, because people say the voice.
Go ahead.
They say that when you use an interface, it adds to the sort of depth and the quality.
Yeah, a couple different things. Like the ATR mics that we have that are both USB and XLR. I don't know if you noticed it, but when you connect it with the XLR interface, it's a better sound than it is when you're using the USB. And the reason for that is because you're just using the built-in analog digital encoder, or whatever it's called, inside the mic itself. So if you're using the XLR, it's almost like taking a raw photo with your DSLR.
Okay.
It's got the most information in there, and then of course now you got to have a good quality interface as well to make the most of that raw audio that it's getting from the professional mic. But I think that Focusrite also includes some software or some plugins or effects or whatever, like compressors and that kind of thing. I think it does help with tweaking it a little bit, I believe.
Okay. And that mic that you've got, according to the spec, it has some microphones that actually point away from you that help cancel out background noise, the other side of the mic. So it receives and inverts and cancels out. That's what it seemed to indicate. Or didn't you?
The Heil?
Yeah. Heil.
Yeah, it's got something going on the way he designed it. There's something going on inside this capsule that somehow senses. They call it what, off-axis rejection or something like that.
Yep, that's it.
I mean, if you like, so right now I'll kind of start going off to the side, and I'm talking at the same volume over here, but now as I get closer and right in the cone or whatever of the capsule, you hear me very clearly. But if I just go off over here a little bit, and then I'm talking at the normal volume, but you see how you can.
Absolutely. I mean, it really just changes in volume. It changes in quality as well.
What if I'm talking back here? I'm talking right at the back of the microphone, but you can hardly hear me. But if I talk to the front of the microphone, you can hear me very well.
Yeah,
this is very good. One of the guys I watch on YouTube, but he gets into using Adobe Audition and doing all kinds of things with it. He's got a great podcast / YouTube thing that he does. He uses for podcasting, he uses the PR40, but when he's doing the YouTube video, he uses a condenser microphone, because then you don't have all this because he's moving around a lot, and he's and he wants to make sure that you're getting his voice clearly, no matter whether he's turning this way and looking at something over here or not. And with the condenser, it picks it all up. But that's the good thing and the bad thing about a condenser.
Right.
Everything up, which is good for doing what he's doing, and he's in a controlled sound insulated environment when he's doing these videos. But it's great because then it picks up everything, even when he's not facing the microphone directly. Or what do you call it? Addressing the microphone directly. The main man Micah, that's the one that Nev recommends. Amazon.com/Focusrite Scarlett. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to go for the I think it's the 18i8 Micah, which I've probably got four inputs, only because
I think that one you just mentioned is the one that is just one input, isn't it? Isn't it the 2i4 or something like that that has the four inputs?
I think the 2 has 2, and the I can just go to my I'll just go to my app here, which is my.
That's a shame. People are watching the video. If they're still watching the video by now,
yeah, go away. Bye, folks. You must be bored.
Their own peril.
Exactly right.
Unless you like listening to us talk about this stuff.
Wish list. Oh my God, I've got $4,367 in my B&H photo wish list.
Wow. Nice.
Right.
That'll be
there we go. 1818. Okay. The USB 2 audio interface, second generation. Now this one has, it seems to have 4 inputs.
Okay, 18i8 maybe?
Yeah, the 18i8.
I have not heard of that one. Let me see. Second generation. I wonder if it has, is it USB 3?
No, it's still USB 2. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 line inputs, 2 monitor inputs.
That's good. That's the difference between the first generation and second generation. I don't think the first generation had 2 headphone.
Yeah, that was the thing I wanted to, was 2. It's got 2 headphone inputs at the front. I mean, I was going to ask you what the hell these all these plugs do, because it's got like 4 plugs at the front with 4 volume controls, presumably, or gain controls. Now, and a monitor, main monitor control. But at the back, it's got another 4 inputs. So what the hell are those for?
Yeah, let me take a look at the back. Okay, on the back, the SPDIF out, I think, is those are all outputs in the back, actually.
Okay. So no, it's on the right hand side of the back.
Okay, never mind. Now I see what you're talking about. I just looked over there. Oh,
yeah. Near where it says designed in England, made in China.
Those are inputs like if you wanted basically to use this like a you can kind of use this like a mixer if you wanted to connect an iPad or some other something to send a line level signal into this interface, and then it mixes it with your inputs on the front panel. Those are XLR / quarter-inch inputs on the combination jacks in the front. So
those jacks on the front, when you say they're combination jacks, what's one of those? I mean, I'm looking for XLR's 3 pins, isn't it?
yes, but I think you can also, I'll have to look, but I think the way they're shaped, if you had a quarter-inch jack instead of an XLR, you can stick it right there in that middle hole.
Okay, I think Mike is agreeing with you there. He says 4 XLR inputs on the front, on the back you have line inputs. So
Yeah.
mics on the front, line on the back.
Yeah, and the mic level and line level are different. What do you call it? Impedance or something. In other words, if you're going to put something into this thing that's a line level, it's a much higher level than the mic. The mic itself doesn't really have a lot of strong level to it. And so
okay.
Interface.
Yeah, of course. I guess it's a quite low voltage compared with.
Yeah, so this stuff that you plug in the front basically goes through a preamp before it is out of there and goes into your computer.
Oh, okay.
But the stuff on the back, it doesn't need any amplification, so it just basically goes straight through. But it gets combined with that signal, so you're connecting this via USB to your computer. So you could, if for whatever reason you wanted to send in a music bed at the same time that you were talking or whatever, you could do that through this thing.
All right. It has optical input as well. I'm guessing the only big question I would have in B&H would be is it multi-voltage? So you guys with your strange voltages.
Oh, the funny thing is that it's made in your country, but I guess it's intended for use here.
It's designed in England and made in China.
Yeah. So it has Chinese voltage requirements.
Well, they're 240 volts, I think, China. They are 240 volts, yes.
So I don't know. That might
220.
be, how much more is it over in your neck of the woods?
That's a good question. I'll check it out.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good. It looks to me like looking at the back of this. Oh, wait a minute. I don't think it matters because it's it converts AC to 12 volt DC. So it would probably just be the difference would be the thing that you plug into it is going to convert your voltage to your AC voltage into 12 volt DC. Kind of like with a Mac, with a MacBook. You use a different converter to power your MacBook than I do because mine uses 110 and yours uses 220 or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I mean, just don't have to get a second. Okay. Well, actually, £290 from Gear for Music.
That's about the same price as the US dollars, $349.99 on Amazon.
Well, and that would be, and I have to pay tax. What's New York tax? Must be around 10%.
I don't know.
8%, so rings a bell. So it would be close to $370. It might be cheaper in the UK. Well, I never. Travel, currency.
Okay, so it says Focusrite iOS control. Oh, iOS control now available. Download the free Focusrite ISO. So this, you can use this with iOS.
$279, $280. I can buy it here. I save £1 approximately. Oh, and Jeff says, you're so good. Our listeners are just brilliant, aren't they? Benedict, no, I don't really need a big interface, but he who dies with the most toys wins. Didn't you know that?
Benedict, you should see. Okay, well, the mixer that I'm using right now, I mean, it's not that big. It's actually quite small for what it does. Let's see. I'm gonna
Oh God, this is where we get the Dana MacBook moment.
I don't think I have any liquids.
When well, I was waiting for you to drop it.
What was that? Oh, that was just my Zoom H5 recorder.
Oh, I think they found your X channel there as well. Triple X channel.
Can you see the Behringer mixer there?
Is that the big black box or the
the one that I used in your garden?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So basically, the new one that I'm getting is the XR18, and so it's basically the same footprint as this, except for it's like 2 inches taller, or just under 2 inches taller. So it's even bigger and heavier than what I have here.
Oh my God!
But I'm hoping that this is going to make my editing.
It's going to be the one. You'll be like the Matrix
until the next one comes around.
Yeah, this is the one. And the answer, Jeff, is yeah. I love lots of guys with guitars that stop by. No, I was looking at just a simple one for me, and then I thought, well, why have one for me? I have podcasted with Fred and with what was the nice chap in Garden City who took me over to his office. The guy that loves, his nickname's Joel Lover or something. Joel, yeah. Oh, Brent? No, not Brent. Oh, God damn it! I'll have to look back because I'm terrible with names.
And had great internet bandwidth and everything.
Oh, he was. He goes around the world connecting entire internet companies to the.
I see what you're doing here. You're going to start your own panel podcast. I see.
Well, now you see, now twice I've had to sort of share a mic, and I like my own mic.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to connect 2 mics, and I thought, well, if I'm going to connect 2, I might as well have one that does 4, because it's only another 30 quid or something to have one that does.
And it's not that bigger and heavier, really.
No, and most of the time I'm going to leave it at home. So
yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, so I think this is some good kit. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's a nice kit. Yes, good kit.
Nice kit.
Very good. Very good.
But apparently, I have to do some more research here. But it looks, see, that comes with all these. Well, I guess the plugins and stuff are probably for interfacing with your DAW, whatever your program you're using to record and that kind of thing.
Well, it's only GarageBand at the moment, and that was the other question. If I want to improve my plain tales and put a little extra into it, where do I go next?
Well, and there are a lot of good. I mean, it really depends on what you know and what you've learned, and
not much is the answer. That's my problem. You see, I just like having shiny gear.
Yeah, me too. We share that same element. I've been using. I love Adobe Audition. And then occasionally I'll go and think, well, maybe I can just get away with using Reaper, Reaper.fm, because it's like a one-time, and as long as you're not doing it for commercial use and you don't make more than $20,000, from whatever you're using it for, you can only pay. It's just like an open source fee of $60 for the software, as opposed to Adobe Audition, because I'm using it within the Adobe Creative Cloud subscription. I pay $50 a month for that Creative Cloud subscription.
Oh, you've got the whole cloud. The whole
thing.
Yeah, I pay a fraction of that because I
really use Adobe Audition, but my son is using Premiere. So what I really should do is just have him sign up for it and then pay the college student rate of $20 a month.
Oh, there you go.
But
that makes a lot of sense. I mean, when I was doing my university degree in photography, I paid student rates on Adobe. It's very cheap.
But on the other hand, I think, well, I'm using this for the show, and I'm getting, I like Adobe Audition, DAW. It's got a lot of, it's a pro tool basically. But speaking of that, there are a lot of other great DAWs out there, like Pro Tools, Avid, or is it Avid Pro Tools? Whatever. And then there's Apple's Logic, their audio DAW. But I don't know. I like Audition because it's multiple, it's multi-platform.
Yeah. There are a lot of guys in the chat room that know a lot about this. Jeff Ward putting a lot of info in. He knows a lot about Micah's, of course, putting his impedance in.
We're not going to deal with Micah's impedance.
No, we're not.
Or impetuance. No. And
yeah. Keith something. It might have been Keith. God, I'm so embarrassed. If he listens to this, I'll be mortified.
Oh, I'm sure he does, and you're toast.
Can you cut this bit out?
No, it's in the video. It's not going to be in the audio.
Damn it. How do we contact each other? Was it with messages? It's too hard.
Jeff, he just listened to it today, and he's already forgotten his name.
Yeah, I know.
That's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
I'm going to have to apologize to him next time I meet him, just in case. David Abbey will know.
Yeah, David Abbey. Why do we remember Dave's name?
I know, because he's continually pestering me. I'm only joking, Dave.
No, we know Dave's name because we come into basically.
Well, he's Bailman Dave. I mean, Dave's, yeah.
Yeah, social media. Yeah, we see him.
Exactly right. He's always there.
All right, well, enough yakking.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody that's still there watching us on the YouTubes. And appreciate your support. And Hillel, if you're still there, I'll contact you tomorrow, and we can get together. And if Craig's around, we can do that. And anybody else in the area, maybe Cosley might be have the time to come down. And anyway, do something at the Inner Harbor, grab a beer and a bite to eat, and it'll be fun. Okay, that is it.
Is that it? Do we have to go to bed now? I'd have to go to bed.
Gotta get something to eat, get something to drink, and go to bed.
Damn.
All right. See you guys.
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. I might just find his name here.
Okay.
Jeff Stewart, Glenn, Micah. No, it's not there either. This is the problem. I lose track. Damn it. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Jeff.